I still wake up with a little guy saluting me.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy.
Come on, let's wake up.
Gotta wake up.
Are you sure you want to wake up to this?
Come on now, wake up.
I can't wait to wake up.
Wake up, idiot.
Yeah, thanks for waking up with us. It's a Tuesday here in Indianapolis. As always, the wake-up call. He's Kevin Bowen. I'm Andy Sweeney. We broadcast live from the DriveHubler.com studios, live on 93.5, 107.5, and anywhere you may be listening on our very free app. Also, 107.5thefan.com. KB, it is here. Jonathan Taylor talk has arrived. You hoped you could push it to Wednesday. Not so fast, my friend. A very good morning to you.
Are we pushing it to Thursday now that they've canceled Wednesday's practice?
Well, Steichen spoke yesterday, so, you got the mashup. You tweeted it out, so I dubbed it over. Here we are.
Yeah, nonetheless, certainly a step, I guess, in the right direction with this Jonathan Taylor story. So certainly something that we will unpack today. Rick Carlisle going to join us at 8 o'clock. Pacers open up training camp. Their first practice begins here on this Tuesday morning. They had media day yesterday. Their first preseason game comes up on Sunday. Always enjoy the conversations with Rick. So again, he joins us at 8. Gregg Doyel at 8:30. And Daniel Jones.
Oh, don't even do it to me. It's not even worth your time. It's
97-yard pick six last night.
That's when Little Gas was done. That's when he went to bed.
I thought he would be the difference maker, Little Gas, but Daniel Jones has powers above that. What I love about Monday Night Football is when you get the Manning cast, you cannot hide. In particular, you can't hide Peyton's raw emotions.
Right.
And when Peyton and Eli react to the Daniel Jones pick six, it is priceless. Like, they can't hide. Eli looks like he just saw a ghost.
Well, Eli works for the team, too, which, if the Giants were good, somebody would care about. But they're not, so nobody cares about.
Eli's silent for about 10 seconds, and then Peyton throwing his arms, flailing anywhere. Like, at that point, Andy, I'm thinking to myself, okay, little late third quarter, you score here, it's 14-10. It's Drew Lock on the other sideline. And
well, at least I have a team in blue here to discuss in the Colts, because the Giants are a dead franchise. They pay guys.
Didn't they just make the playoffs?
They pay guys. It was a complete mirage. It teased them. Remember the conversation we had last week? I don't know. Maybe it was last Monday or Tuesday where we went back and forth on, winning games versus the development of Anthony Richardson. And, remember that discussion? Sure. And you were afraid, hey, if you win 8 games or 9 games, it would be
you don't would be the Jets from last year.
You would think you're closer than what you actually are. Well, that's basically the life that I am living right now, Kevin Bowen, okay? Do you understand? That's the life that I'm living. What's on your Pacers hat, by the way?
I'm a little nervous.
You get a little grime on your Pacers hat?
No, I'd like to chalk it up some kid residue, but I have no idea what it is.
So anyway, we don't have to talk. It's a loser franchise. Last year was a mirage. They pay guys, they don't play. They pay Andrew Thomas, he doesn't play. They pay, Barkley wants all the money in the world. He misses a month and a half every single season. I mean, the offensive, I'm 39. The offensive line was bad when I was 29.
It was halftime, and I was looking at the schedule. Oh my God, the Giants are on national television, right? 2 more times. I'm like, please no.
Well, their next 3 games: Miami, Buffalo, and at Washington. Woof. Guys, do I do a show, a bag on my head? I mean, what are we doing?
I will say Devin Witherspoon, the man taking one spot after Anthony Richardson by the Seattle Seahawks. A team in Seattle that I thought had some pretty legit Richardson interest. I don't know if Richardson would have gotten past Seattle there at 5. What a night for him.
Dude's a beast.
Remember when we had Ryan Walters on back in the spring, we kind of asked him about some of those Illinois defenders that were about to be drafted. Witherspoon would have been one of those guys. 2 sacks last night. He had that 97-yard pick six in Seattle. 24-3 over Mason Sweeney, Little Gas, and
I had Seattle making the playoffs. I thought the Giants would, at least not just fold up like a cheap chair, like a cheap. Do they say a cheap suit? You fold up like a cheap suit. I've never seen that happen before. But I'm
Listening
sure
to
it
you
does.
and Mark discuss your NFL teams right now, it should give Colts fans maybe even more hope of what these first 4 games will look like.
The Colts have more hope than both of our teams.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, we'll get to Jonathan Taylor. We'll play it.
a low bar.
Well, it is. We'll play it 3-4 times today. KB tweeted it out. Shane Steichen had, 4 or 5 answers. Obviously,
it's the most expansive Shane has been on Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, we have 30, 40 seconds on Shane Steichen talking about Jonathan Taylor. We'll get to that here in just a minute. And then the other side, injuries adding up for this football team. And I think that's the other big story with a physical Tennessee Titans team coming into Lucas Oil on Sunday.
And honestly, and again, just to kind of give people a little bit of the lay of the land of what happened yesterday, Shane Steichen has a Monday afternoon conference call every single Monday to recap the game, and that was at 2:30. At that point, the plan was to practice on Wednesday. That's the normal schedule that you see. Really, the only time you see teams dial back a Wednesday practice to a walkthrough is probably, honestly, like what your Giants or what the Seahawks will do this week. Coming off the Monday night game, you typically don't go on Wednesdays. Then all of a sudden, 5 o'clock, the Colts announce, hey, we're just going to have a walkthrough on Wednesday. My assumption, and we'll ask Shane this tomorrow, my assumption, Andy, is that has to do with back-to-back overtime games. Mm-hmm. Granted, your defense was the only one out there on the field for overtime.
It's so banged up
on Sunday, and the injuries are starting to add up. You've now have 3 of your trench starters in the concussion protocol. Kwity Paye joins Bernard Ryman and Ryan Kelly in that after developing some symptoms after the game on Sunday. And then I think the Dallas Flowers torn Achilles late in the game on Sunday, I think that is a really underrated injury, and I guess it's underrated, Andy, just because it's the name and it's not a household name. But Dallas Flowers was playing every single snap for you as the outside corner. We've already seen a benching at the other outside corner spot, and it's a huge loss, I think, in the short term. But also, that's a key evaluation piece moving forward. Corner for me is one of the premium positions on the football team. Dallas Flowers is clearly someone the Colts liked late last season. They've liked enough throughout the offseason where he was a starter every day. It was never a competition whether Dallas Flowers would be a 2023 starter or not. And now he's got a torn Achilles. Torn Achilles for a corner, that's a big, big injury. So even if you're just strictly looking at it from an evaluation standpoint, 2024 and beyond, who knows what corner looks like moving forward. That's a bummer. So we'll certainly get into some of the ramifications on that end. But the big item from yesterday was Shane Steichen announcing that Jonathan Taylor will be returning to the practice field this week. Again, when he had the call with us at 2:30, it was he'll practice Wednesday. We'll now eliminate one of those days. So it'll be a walkthrough on Wednesday. That leaves 2 days of practice for Jonathan Taylor this week, Thursday and Friday. Shane Steichen would not slam the door shut on Taylor possibly playing on Sunday. Do you believe that's a possibility? Do you believe that's gamesmanship against, arguably the team that you've probably been the most rival with in the last, handful of years in the AFC South?
What's funny is there are certain things that KB and I, we discuss and other things that we don't discuss. And on the very top of my sheet on my topic list is Steichen on Taylor, ... What do his words mean? And I think that's what you're saying right there. Is it gamesmanship? Is he going to play? Is he not going to play?
Gamesmanship, right?
He hasn't practiced since when? December of 2022? Is that the number you threw out there?
I tried to do the math yesterday.
Yeah, I know you did.
So follow me on this, all right? There's been 12 practices Taylor's missed here this season, okay? So there's 12. I count about 16 during training camp, so that adds up to 28. How about another handful after training camp before the start of the season? So now I'm at 33 if I'm doing the math right. Let's go back to the spring. He missed all 12 sessions in the spring.
You're 45.
Now we're at 45. Let's go back to late last season when he missed the final 3 weeks of the year. That's another 9 on top of 45. I've got 54 as my rough number. 54 straight practices he has missed. He plays a position, Andy, where you don't need a heavy game day workload. Trey Sermon had 3 carries on Sunday, something like that. You can obviously rotate in running. It's not like left guard where you're like, no, if you're in there, you're in there every single snap.
He doesn't have to carry it 32 times on Sunday, right? He can carry it 7.
But, again, I cannot recall a time a guy has missed 50-some straight practices and has come back and has played. Not to mention, we have all the saga around the Taylor story. He was uber protective of his body late last season. Can you imagine if he got out there for a handful of carries on Sunday and re-aggravated some injury? That would be the worst thing for all parties involved with this. So I still lean towards no. I think the elimination of a Wednesday practice probably contributes to some of that. A couple of other things to note on Taylor, Andy. They have opened up a 21-day period on him practicing. That doesn't mean he's on the 53-man roster. So some things to look for this week. He's not going to show up on the injury report. So for those looking to see if he's limited or full this week, he's in this, kind of a weird. He's not on PUP anymore, but he's not on the 53-man roster.
He's in purgatory.
Yeah,
he's
sure.
in football injury purgatory.
Again, you have this, extension, if you will, with him to where he's allowed to practice. So don't look for him on the injury report. And also, I don't believe he has to talk to the media just yet. I think that maybe would wait until the 53-man roster, because Shane was pretty glowing in his remarks about Taylor yesterday. But the last time we've heard from Taylor, and based off his social media and how his agent has reacted,
hasn't been glowing remarks.
Exactly. So
it's been the opposite.
When do we hear from him? That is still something that's on my mind.
Well, let's play it. It's about 45 seconds. Here's Shane Steichen. I don't know what our issue is. Is that auto playing, Mark? What's going on? Or is that you playing? Because
that's you.
Yeah, no, he's in good shape conditioning wise. Obviously, putting on the pads and practicing is a different deal. I know it's been a long time since he's played football. So we'll see, how practice goes this week, see where he's at physically from, putting the pads on, and we'll go from there. Big time player. He's explosive. He can hit the home runs, when he sees the hole, that explosive breakaway speed, great vision, power, obviously one of the top backs in this league, without a doubt. So excited to get him back with his teammates on Wednesday on the field. Again, we'll have those conversations, see where he's at. If he feels good, and then we'll rotate him in if he's ready to go, for sure. He'll be back with the team. He's practicing Wednesday. He'll be out there with us. Had great conversations with him. He's super excited to be back with his teammates, and look forward to having him. Yeah, no, he's in good shape conditioning-wise. Obviously, putting
I got to know, what computer is that playing from?
Yours.
It's not playing from mine. It's not playing from mine. I'm telling you right now.
We got a smooth start to this Tuesday morning.
We got to figure this out, because this started last week. Jake, did you do this? Who did this? Did James Boyd do this? I got to blame somebody. When they moved everything around in here last week, Mark, that's when it started. My Adobe Audition did not, the cursor.
Do you have Ghost? Is this Sam Darnold seeing Ghost?
I swear to God, it did not move the cursor. I'm sitting here. It is not moved.
It's not my computer, because I don't have that sound on here.
So we have no Spider-Man memeing each other right now?
We have no idea how that sound played. I'm looking at Mark. I thinking he's playing it. He's like, well, dummy, you're playing it because you pointed to your damn computer, and, nothing's moving.
Your computer's off?
Wise, obviously, putting on.
Okay, so that's firing. When you turn it on, it's firing whatever.
Are we the Giants and Bears right now?
Yeah.
With how we're handling this?
Yes. No, we're handling it well.
Matty Eberflus is looking at Brian Dable, and Brian Dable's looking at Matty.
I throw my iPad like Dayball did yesterday. Threw the iPad at Daniel Jones. That'll get it.
Somebody just pointed this out as well. On top of Taylor obviously missing all that practice time, this is a new run game. It's a new quarterback. It's a new offensive line kind of blocking scheme. So you add that onto all of it. But I will say this, and you heard one of those Steichen clips in there. Andy, whenever it does happen, a trio of Richardson, Taylor, and Zach Moss, that is very intriguing to me. Very intriguing to watch. And I remember back when Richardson was drafted, after letting things kind of play out in the 24, 48 hours after the draft, I kind of walked away thinking, man, really from day one, the Colts should have a bona fide run game. They should have a high-level run game with Richard, and at that point, it was probably more focused on Richardson and Taylor. But what Moss has shown me this year is that's a nice change of pace. Obviously, it's not a change of pace in he's the Lightning, he's more the Thunder. But when you think about him getting in there, whenever Taylor does have that full workload,
he's a good player.
I think that will be a nice change of pace. So again, no practice for the Colts on Wednesday. It will be a walkthrough, but we begin this 21-day window. So at any point during the 21 days, Andy, Jonathan Taylor can be elevated to your 53-man roster and therefore be eligible for a game. So he's eligible to practice now, not yet for a game. You've got to make an actual roster move for that. So a lot to get to on that front, a lot to get to on, again, a little bit bigger of an injury report growing for the Colts as they welcome the Titans here in Week 5, and the unfortunate situation with Dallas Flowers with his season being over. Rick Carlisle is going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. The Pacers training camp gets underway. Coming up here today, again, their first preseason game Sunday in Memphis. And we'll talk with the longtime NBA head coach coming up here in a bit. It is looking like a nice Tuesday morning here in Indianapolis. We will try to sift through our computer issues here during the break. Let's not be Giants and Bears. Let's be Eagles and 49ers.
Good luck.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, your morning check down. Couple different reminders. Rick Carlisle, Pacers head coach, will join us coming up top of the 8 o'clock hour. Gregg Doyel at 8:30. I was kind of internally thinking, KB, are there two guys who might be more different than those two guys?
That's an accurate way to put it, yeah.
With
Very
Carlisle and Doyle back-to-back. All right, let's finish off week 4 of the NFL season last night. Giants blown out. They're pathetic. Brian Dable threw an iPad at Daniel Jones. 24-3, your final there. Geno Smith got injured late first half, missed a possession. It didn't matter. Drew Lock hit Noah Fant for a long touchdown, terrible tackling, and then Geno just horrific tackling. And then Geno came back. He was upset, by the way. He thought it was a cheap shot Isaiah Rodgers put on him, but his ankle's going to be tender today. 24-3, your final there.
God, the Giants. I'm sorry, Andy. I felt bad for
There's
little
some
guys.
rage behind it.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I just see there goes our computer again. You're
gonna go in a computer timeout.
I
didn't even touch the mouse.
In the onesie, though.
He did. He's going to grow into it.
He is. By the end of the year, the Giants will be on a win streak, and he'll be filling that thing out. Terrific.
Well, he filled out the diaper just like Daniel Jones did yesterday.
They'll 3 wins in 2.5 years of him wearing that.
That is a good point. I don't know if anyone cares, but the Major League Baseball playoffs gets underway today. Again, we've got these best of 3 series, Twins, Blue Jays, Rays, and Rangers. And in the NL, it's the Brewers and the Diamondbacks, the Phillies, and the Marlins. So the winners of that will move on to the divisional round, the byes in the AL. The Orioles are the 1 seed, the Astros are the 2, and in the NL, it is the Braves, of course, as the 1, and the Dodgers as the 2.
Who we got in those games? You have a strong feeling in today's matchups?
Care less.
Yeah, me either.
And I mean, sure, bitterness Reds fan, but part of me is just like, man, I'm in football season and a little bit of basketball season.
I always ask baseball to get me to mid-August.
Yeah.
You could even say August 1st.
And I'm sure if the Reds were in it, I'd feel differently.
Yeah,
so hand raised.
You'd be watching it at 3 o'clock.
As a very biased baseball fan with that comment, but that's just the reality of how I'm feeling. Speaking of basketball, shout out to Aaliyah Boston, the Fever rookie, unanimous rookie of the year, just the 3rd player in WNBA history I saw to be rookie of the year and be an all-star game starter in year 1. Anything else on your end, Andy?
Well, I was just going to throw in there Kenny Pickett, bone bruise to his left knee. That was thought to be an ACL. And it's how rare is it to go and have an MRI and the MRI comes back bone bruise and not a torn up knee? He's going to miss some time. They stink anyway. Maserati Mitch Trubisky is in, so their season's probably done. But Kenny Pickett will not have an ACL. He will not have that. So
we have Rick Carlisle joining us at 8. If I'm not mistaken, in his 20-minute media session yesterday, I think he had to go dump button twice. So Mark, just be ready for that.
Yeah.
One was describing the fan jam event that they typically have. The other was describing how they don't rebound the basketball. So very 2 ends of the spectrum.
I was about to say, yeah.
With the old, he went with the 4-letter F for that.
And
so he's in mid-season form.
Too.
Yes, he did sneak one in there as well.
Now, is he an habitual F and S guy? It doesn't come across that way in media circles, right?
I can't recall many times he has done that here.
He must feel good about his team. What does that mean?
So, yes, we'll have to chat with him about that again coming up at 8 o'clock. All right, on the other side, again, more on the Jonathan Taylor front. What does this mean for him potentially playing coming up on Sunday as he does return to practice later this week? And again, the injury report for the Colts getting a bit longer as week 5 arrives. Big loss yesterday, in my opinion, in the secondary. We'll chat about that as well. Rick Carlisle at 8, Gregg Doyel at 8:30. It is the wake-up call with KB and Andy right here on 93.5, 107.5.
that's why they call me Bad Company. I can't deny.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Rick Carlisle going to join us coming up top of the hour, 8 o'clock. Gregg Doyel at 8:30. You know, I got thinking during the break, KB. I think you'll like this. I know why Jonathan Taylor will not play on Sunday. You ready for this? If I just throw out there, if I just throw out some half, you know what reason, right? And I say this with a smile, obviously. Because it's in Lucas Oil. Remember going back to the preseason, Anthony Richardson didn't play in Lucas Oil, and they never win in Lucas Oil. So why would Jonathan Taylor play in Lucas Oil? He'll play next week in Jacksonville.
What do you think? Let's say for some reason the Colts, they go out there Sunday, they decide let's announce the offense. Jonathan Taylor's a starter. Just throw out the hypothetical.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think the reaction would be from the crowd?
I think the reaction will be mixed, but I think it will be more cheers than boos. Is that fair? I mean, because in the end, you have people there that are Colts fans, that spend a lot of money, that own Jonathan Taylor jerseys, that want to see this work out, and they know with him playing, along with Moss and along with Richardson, I mean, that's a hell of an attack on the running game. I mean, it is.
Yeah, I would say maybe the reaction would be a bit tempered, like a little scaled back from what it usually. I mean, Taylor's usually one of, if not the loudest cheer.
What if he rips off an 18-yarder on his first run?
And again, once he's on the field, obviously they're going to react to that. But I'm talking a little bit more of like those pregame intros. I do think you certainly have fans that are upset with how Taylor's handled this situation, and that is totally understandable. Again, I think it's been beyond childish how Taylor and his camp have handled things. But at the same time, those fans, in all likelihood, are probably the same fans that have walked inside of Lucas Oil Stadium for each of the last 7 times and walked out of there having seen their team lose 7 straight games. Again, it is a 1991 season. You got to go back to that, the last time the Colts lost 8 straight at home. That's what they'll be trying to avoid coming up on Sunday. Obviously want to get to Taylor, but I do want to mention a little bit more on the Dallas Flowers front, if you don't mind, Andy. Again, Dallas Flowers corner tears his Achilles late in the game on Sunday. His season is over. I think obviously the bummer is to Flowers. I mean, he's an undrafted free agent from 2 years ago, and what a great opportunity. And I thought he was playing decent football for you, maybe better than decent, to be fair. And clearly was someone the staff wanted to evaluate. And I think that's where the big bummer is for the Colts and the big picture view is cornerback's an important position. It's a position with really little definites moving forward. Obviously, you hope Juju Brents is one of those guys, but no one has entrenched themselves as, oh yeah, here's a puzzle piece for the next 3 to 5 years. Flowers had the ability to do that. And now, if you look at kind of your cornerback breakdown, you started the year with, I think, 5 young corners. Flowers was one of them. Obviously, Juju Brents is another. And then in some order, you would have put Darrell Baker Jr. You would put Jalen Jones, the 7th-round pick. Yep. And then the 5th one would be Darius Rush. Well, of course, Darius Rush was cut at the end of the preseason. He is now on the Chiefs' practice squad. I'll be curious to see if they try to look into bringing him back at all. And Flowers has, of course, torn his Achilles. Darrell Baker Jr. has already been benched. So if you look at the 5, in a way, Andy, and of course Baker Jr. will, in all likelihood, get some sort of another opportunity.
Juju Brents had a slow start to his career, obviously, fighting injuries, missing the offseason.
But you've gone from 5 to like 2 to 3 really quickly before, even barely the month of October is here. So I think that's where the sting comes into play. I don't necessarily look at it and be like, oh my gosh, you have all these elite wideouts coming up on the schedule and, that's a huge, huge deal. Again, I was very good with the youth movement at corner. The positions that don't impact Anthony Richardson, I'm good with it. But it is disappointing when you talk about an important position without a lot of definites for the future. This injury is certainly a notable one.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple things. Going back to the conversation that you had about 20 minutes ago, and then that right there, and to tie it all together, to me, when you start to see injuries pile up, it hits the Colts right in the groin. It hits him where it hurts, and that is we knew going into this season, KB, that they did not have a lot of depth on the team, right? And so what is going to happen here if they lose games and as injuries pile up, because that's what injuries do in the NFL, that's going to be, I don't want to say the new, because people have been talking about it, but it's absolutely going to be the next thing that people club Chris Ballard over the head on is, well, you didn't have enough corners. So a guy or two gets injured, and now you can't cover anybody. Well, you didn't have, a couple offensive linemen had to sit out for a couple weeks, and you didn't have anybody. And what is worrisome is people have been harping corner, offensive line, and immediately you've been hit there with the injury bug at those two positions, right?
Well, and I think this too, Andy, and I hope I explain this correctly. So there's a youth movement at corner, correct?
We would agree with that, which I'm with you. You throw the young guys out there in a transition season, you got to find out what they can do, and the best way to do that is to play football. We agree.
Why is there a youth movement at corner? It's because you just won 4 games in the 6th year of the Chris Ballard era. So while I can acknowledge I'm content with the youth movement at corner, I think I also can sit here and, Andy, say the reason you have a youth movement is because your GM has failed you through the first 6 years of his regime.
Well, it's like Sunday.
And you just won 4 games, so now you need some youth movements in areas. I hope that makes sense.
Well,
I'm good with it, but we all can acknowledge the reason why you have to have it. The reason why Stephon Gilmore is now a Dallas Cowboy and not back with the Indianapolis Colts is because you were so bad last year, you had to strip a lot down to really the bottom barrel. And so I just kind of want to make sure that is clear to me of I'm fine with the reset, but the reset had to happen because your GM in particular has failed you in that position group and some others that contributed to a 4-win season. And, if you want to throw, it's now 7 straight home losses. You're still hovering around some historic stuff with your football team in a negative light that you would obviously like to correct.
The best thing that aligns to what you're saying, it's like Sunday. We all enjoyed the comeback, the gritty nature. But let's not forget you played a terrible first half where you were down 23-0. Again, I'm fine with a youth movement. Kevin Bowen is fine with a youth movement, but the reason you're doing a youth movement is because you have failed years prior to shore up that position, to get a free agent, to draft better, to develop better, and all those things. I mean, you even look at it. So if you take, the offensive lineman, I'm like, Raymond and Kelly, that's a huge deal. I don't need to tell Colts fans. They understand. We talked about offensive line depth, and it's absolutely been affected, and you absolutely saw it on Sunday, and a couple guys needed some help, by the way, on that offensive line. And then you mentioned defensive backfield and corner and everything else. That's where Flowers comes into play. And then just a cherry on top is Kwity Paye. It's a guy that's been up and down. It's a guy that we started doing this show. He was one of your focuses this season was, hey, what is he going to be? And he's been all right, but now he wasn't all right on Sunday, and now he's injured. And you get a concussion. I kind of feel like, 80-85% of the time you miss a game?
Yeah, concussion protocol again for Kwity Paye. That developed after the game on Sunday. He had a very quiet game. I thought he had a nice first 2 or 3 games to start this season, but a really quiet game for him on Sunday. So now he joins Bernhard Raimann and Ryan Kelly. Let's get back to the Jonathan Taylor situation. Again, as Shane Steichen laid out yesterday, Jonathan Taylor will practice this week. The Colts elected to cancel their Wednesday practice. They will have a walkthrough instead. So that means just 2 practices for Taylor coming up here this week, Thursday and Friday. Anything Steichen related that he said yesterday? It's the most expansive he's been on Taylor. He certainly, I think, offered a lot of positive viewpoints with this. Obviously, we've got to still hear from Taylor, who we haven't heard from since mid-June. But anything Steichen related that stood out to you?
Should we play it? I think Mark and I have our computer issue figured out.
You guys in sync?
I basically just turned mine off to all of this. So Mark is controlling all of it right now.
He's in computer timeout, basically.
You've been grounded?
I have been grounded until 9:57 a.m. this morning. Here's Steichen, a mashup, 30, 40 seconds of everything he had to say yesterday about JT.
He'll be back with the team. He's practicing Wednesday. He'll be out there with us. Had great conversations with him. He's super excited to be back with his teammates and look forward to having him. Yeah, no, he's in good shape conditioning-wise. Obviously, putting on the pads and practicing is a different deal. I know it's been a long time since he's played football. So we'll see, how practice goes this week, see where he's at physically from, putting the pads on, and we'll go from there. Big-time player. He's explosive. He can hit the home runs. When he sees the hole, that explosive breakaway speed, great vision, power. Obviously, one of the top backs in this league, without a doubt. So excited to get him back with his teammates on Wednesday on the field. Again, we'll have those conversations, see where he's at. If he feels good, and then we'll rotate him in if he's ready to go, for sure.
Again, Andy, he plays a position, Taylor, that you obviously can rotate in at. So I think that is what I point to and think, man, I understand that he could play maybe earlier than some other positions. I was talking with Joel A. Erickson yesterday, and Joel was like, remember when Nick Bosa signed his deal, he then played that very Sunday. When Chris Jones added the incentives to his one-year deal, he then played. So could you make the same comparison to Taylor? Where I would probably counter that is Nick Bosa and Chris Jones were happy. Jonathan Taylor is not happy, right? And I don't know, maybe we have to hear that. And Taylor did have surgery in January. We can argue the magnitude of that,
the
and
severity
where he's at, but he did have an off-season surgery, and he has not practiced since mid-December. Of the umpteenth players in NFL history that have missed 50 straight practices, have had off-season surgery, and have not practiced in what is approaching now 10 months, I tend to think 2 practices would not be enough. But Shane Steichen clearly is not going to slam the door shut just yet on that.
Yeah, listen, I don't think he plays on Sunday, but it is, like you mentioned, KB, a position where if he did, you can kind of plug and play, right? You can, to a certain extent, that's what we feel about running back. I just, to me, I'm trying to... NFL coaches give such little information on injured players, right? And Steichen is going to be one of those guys as well. And so I feel like there is a sense of information and a sense of optimism that he's giving us with all of this. And I don't know whether to believe it or not. And I don't mind saying it. Like, is he... To me, here's what it sounds like the most that I get away from it. That JT is healthy and ready to go. Now, was he at the beginning of the season? Was he 4 weeks ago when 4 or 5 weeks ago, KB, when we went through this entire charade of, is he going to go on the PUP list? And they have to, remember on that Wednesday, they got to make a decision on Jonathan Taylor. Like, in the notion, a lot of people, whether it's fair or unfair, is that it was a hold in and he was out of options and he went on PUP. And you could even say, and we had the argument, well, why did they put him on PUP? And maybe it gives you 4 more weeks to figure out if you can trade him. Like, I look at it and say, okay, if JT is happy, is that BS? Is he happy? Like, is he really happy? Is he looked around the NFL and realizes that a team's willing to give up very, very little to get him, and some of the teams that are either not very good, like the Chicago Bears, or obviously don't need him, like the Miami Dolphins. I'm using those two. Now, a team like Green Bay could use him. A team like Cleveland perhaps is still in there, but maybe they're putting the ball in JT's court that, hey, he's happy, he's feeling good. The out there is he's got to put the pads on, he's got to go through these practices back in kind of the swing of the NFL. But I don't know, Steichen's giving positivity to all of this, and I just don't know how to read it because it's the first shred of positivity we've had about Jonathan Taylor since I've been here.
Well, and Andy, I'm always a believer that actions speak more than words. I have not seen Jonathan Taylor at a Colts team function, practice, or game in over a month. And I see a lot of injured guys attending practice. I see a lot of injured guys attending games.
He's not happy.
Taylor is not happy. One of them. So, Steichen's positivity, he obviously is communicating directly with Taylor. I would say, is that more just, I have no other choice. Like Taylor has, Taylor's got to view this as, okay, you've got 4 games, Sunday being the first of those 4, as a possibility to audition yourself to the rest of the NFL. Because 4 games leads into the October 31st trade deadline. So he is, again, eligible to play on Sunday if you would like him to play. But even if he doesn't, he still has 3 more games at Jacksonville, home to the Saints, home to the Browns, to play before that October 31st deadline. But again, I'm going to echo what I did say in that opening segment. And even if Taylor is just content or, is realizing I have no other choice, I have to play, a Taylor, Richardson, Moss trio of runners with Shane Steichen's offensive creativity, that has got to be extremely intriguing to Colts fans and to Shane Steichen about what he can do with that. And it's a team right now that lacks explosive playmakers. And if you look at Sunday with your wideouts combining, your top 3 wideouts combining for 4 catches.
Say 4 catches, yeah.
You need more from something offensively. And can your run game provide that? And then obviously the byproduct of that would be it opens up a little bit more of that passing game. I thought Shane said something interesting yesterday as well, of like the return of Taylor, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, allows Richardson to just kind of take some plays off. And by that, I think he means this. If you watch the Colts rushing attack right now, almost everything is a zone read, a.k.a.
it's razzle-dazzle to get 5 yards.
Richardson has an option to run it on virtually every play.
He's having to make a decision with Taylor. That's not the case.
Right. So now it's like, can you just hand it to Taylor and say, here you go, man.
Give
no
me
matter
5
what
yards.
happens, you're getting the ball here. Can you just hand it to Zach Moss and not, have Richardson involved as an option on every single play? That certainly, I think, is a possibility that the Colts feel like they haven't had yet this year.
Wake up call on the fan. Reminder, Rick Carlisle coming up at 8 o'clock. Greg Doyle at 9 o'clock. KB, what's interesting as well, it's funny that you just led right into that, because I wrote down, are we allowed to even wander into the conversation of, hey, if he does come back this week or next week, what's he going to do for the team? We haven't had that conversation. Well, like you brought it up today, and I can understand why we haven't had the conversation, but we have not had the conversation of, okay, now we see what AR can do with his feet. We know a little bit about him. We know a little bit about Shane Steichen. We know that Zach Moss is tough as hell, right? Like these are things that we have learned this season, and then you throw Jonathan Taylor into the mix. I mean, to me, if I'm a Colts fan, man, I want to see this guy on Sunday bad. Like, I am itching to see this guy. I mean, they need playmakers just anywhere on the field, and you're not going to get any midseason. You're not going to be able to go get a guy who's on the street, practice squad somewhere else. This is the only chance you're going to get all season to add
the big jolt.
Yeah, a big-time player is right now whenever you get a guy like this coming off an injury, pup, whatever it may be.
And even if he is unhappy with how things have been handled between him and the Colts, Taylor still has to give his best effort if he wants to audition for the 31 other teams. So the byproduct of that is the Colts are going to benefit from that, because there's going to be individual success from Taylor is going to equal some sort of team success, and that obviously is going to help out Indy right now, and a 2-2 football team that, again, I think is struggling to find some offensive playmaking if it's not created by their quarterback. I did want to mention this. The other guy that was eligible to return this week,
this one bothers me,
was tight end Jelani Woods. Shane Steichen said yesterday he remains on injured reserve. Again, a hamstring injury, extremely nagging. He had a setback in training camp with it. I think there's debates about, was he out of shape in the offseason? Did the Colts push him too much to get back from the hamstring? I think it's a lot of kind of he said, she said, not as public as the Taylor situation. Woods is still present at the Colts building through all of this. But this is a really intriguing guy. You took in the 3rd round, and it's his 2nd year, and he had some individual moments late last season, and you want to see more from him. And now it looks like his stay on injured reserve will continue.
Yeah, the Jelani Woods injury, I meant to write that down along with all the different guys that are going through concussion protocol, and obviously Flowers and the Achilles injury and everything else. Jelani Woods was a guy that I was excited to see just about as much. I mean, obviously not as much as Anthony Richardson, not as much as, how is this Jonathan Taylor stuff gonna, shake itself out? But like Jelani Woods was like 3rd or 4th on my list of you feel like there's something explosive there, right? Like he can do something maybe that some other guys can't do, and he gave you a little taste at the end of last season,
right.
And now you're not getting any of it. When he goes back on IR, I'm ignorant here. How long does he?
So he can have to spend 4 weeks, just like Taylor had to spend 4 weeks on PUP, and now technically he can return at any point,
right?
But again, they're not calling him up to practice like they are with Taylor.
Yeah, so it's not this week.
This is going to linger.
Yeah, it's not going to be next week. It's going to be next week, right? So you're looking at the next 2 games he's not going to be a part of. He's starting to get into the middle of the season. This is a guy you thought could be a starter in the NFL. Is it wrong? Do you think Rick Carlisle has seen the Jimmy Butler hair? Someone sent that to me. It's a great question.
Rick Carlisle strikes me as one that's in the group family text where the daughter sends something.
Oh, is he?
And he responds every fifth.
Well, we might have to ask him that. Mark, have you seen it? I know you're a Chicago guy.
Emo Jimmy Butler.
Following Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler, is that what they're calling the emo? Did he give a name for the emo
he said he was
version?
emo. He was listening to
Did he change
Taking
his
Back
name
Sunday
at all?
while he was getting his hair
Fallout
done.
Boy.
Yeah.
I did think yesterday, and again, Rick Carlisle is going to join us here in just a second. I do like, in particular, the Bruce Brown comments of, okay, we had the team dinner last night, and the long talk was tired of losing, and that needs to change. And I thought it was really interesting that I've kind of forgotten this. Tyrese Haliburton, Andy, has not been on a winning team since his freshman year at Iowa State.
Yes, it's Sacramento, and then the first couple here, yeah.
In his last year at Iowa State, they were, he hasn't been, I think I looked it up, better than 8 games under 500. And again, I don't want to act like I'm ripping him for that, but this is the time of just 25 to 35 wins. It's time to take that next jump. So we'll chat with Rick Carlisle on the other side about that. Gregg Doyel at 8:30. Thank you for tuning in. Beautiful Tuesday here in Indy.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, 8 o'clock, hanging out with you. Wake Up Call, Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney, Mark Dykton. Me and Mark licking our wounds from another rough NFL weekend. Nicer things. We get to talk some NBA. Pacers practicing. Pacers Sunday, 7:30 in Memphis to kick things off there preseason-wise. And we head to the Payless Liquors hotline. The head coach of the Pacers, Rick Carlisle, joins the show here on this Tuesday. Coach, a very happy morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. The excitement level around this team, it's palpable. I can feel it in the city and in the studios here. I'm sure you can feel it as well. What do you think about your team as practice kicking off, and we're going to find out what the Pacers can do this season?
Well, looking forward to a highly competitive training camp. We've got really 15 guys that can really play. On the veteran side of the roster, we got 3 two-way guys that are real competitive. So 18 guys in camp, a lot of versatility on the roster. Some unknowns, with Obi Toppin joining us and Bruce Brown now being on board. But we believe these guys fit in well. And some of the excitement for me are just some of the unknowns that I think we're going to unlock here in the next week or two.
Coach, thanks for the time on this Tuesday morning with camp opening up. You just mentioned the depth, 15 guys. That, to me, is what stands out the most about your roster. What do you think will kind of be the tiebreaker for you guys as a staff in deciding, starting roles, minutes, when it comes down to really so much depth, and depth that I haven't seen the Pacers team have in quite some time?
Yeah, I think impact on winning, overall impact on winning. For us, to continue building our offensive identity, we got to play fast. We got to play random. We've got to be totally unselfish. We've got to become a better decision-making team at the rim. Defensively, we've got a long way to go. And signing Bruce Brown was a real step in the direction of adding another, a tier 1 defender. On NBA metrics, Bruce is a tier 1 defender. We've got 2 or 3 other guys that are getting close to that level. And we feel they can get there, but we've got to elevate the level of our entire team. And, a guy like Bruce can be a difference maker. And so we've got a lot of work to do there.
You mentioned the long ways to go on defense. Certainly you have one of, if not the best rim protector in the league in Miles Turner at the rim. How do you go about getting better on the defensive end, and how much does it boil down to being better out on the perimeter?
Well, you hit it on the head. I mean, a lot of it, one of the reasons Miles has such great shot blocking numbers is that there's people getting by us on the perimeter all the time. And so that comes down to closeouts, one-on-one defense, and then playing out possessions until you come up with the ball. And so, this is going to be a very competitive camp, and not just from the standpoint of competing for minutes, but we're going to be competing with a lot of one-on-one, with a lot of two-on-two, sessions where, we're playing it out till we get a winner, consequence for losing, you get a stop, you stay on, stops, count as scores. I mean, we've really got to dig deeper. And, that's one of the other things that I'm looking forward to in camp is, which guys can have the appetite to get better from purely an effort standpoint. I know we all have the ability to do it, but, as a coaching staff, we're going to have to be more demanding. And, I'm looking forward to this because I think there's a real potential for upside here. But, it doesn't just happen because you talk about it.
Rick Carlisle with us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, just the last thing on the defense, and we can move on to other things. Yesterday you said, well, it's scheme, but it's also grit. You used the word grit yesterday in your preseason remarks. Do you know who has that grit on defense besides Brown? Who else has that? Do you think will be able to do that this season for you? Any idea?
I mean, I have an idea, but I also feel that we can unlock that in a lot of our guys. And I don't want to put anybody out there by naming other guys and not them. I mean, every year, as an NBA coach, you've got to view as a clean slate, and you've got to believe that there are real possibilities to improve. But on the one hand, and on the other hand, I've got to be the standard bearer for that. So this is an exciting time. I mean, and the thing I said to these guys 2 nights ago, we had our team meeting over at Chad Buchanan's house. He's got a gym in his house.
Nice.
His son, his place is.
No wonder Trey's such a good player.
Yeah, I mean Trey works out at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, and it's really pretty cool. But one of the things I said to these guys is that this is going to be hard. We've got to expect it to be hard. We got to want it to be hard. Opening night, we play a Washington team that appears to be blowing it up and kind of starting from scratch. Well, that's going to be a bitch of a game, and the favorable part of our schedule really is in the first couple of months, and so we've really got to be ready. When the ball goes up on whatever day that is, I guess it's the 25th or something like that. So, we're looking forward to it, but none of this stuff's easy.
Yeah, 3 weeks from tomorrow, the regular season opens up for the Pacers. Again, first day of training camp today. Rick Carlisle joining us right here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Rick, you had a really interesting comment to me back when Tyrese Haliburton signed his extension this offseason. You were, I thought, extremely candid in really saying that the franchise was in a bit of a dark spot when you guys were approaching that trade situation, and then what Tyrese has done for you and the franchise obviously has certainly created much, much more light. Could you share exactly where you guys think you were at that point and exactly what Haliburton has done for the franchise?
Well, I'm a little reluctant to go backwards and, bring up negative things, but, at that time we were a team that was playing an uninspired brand of basketball. We didn't have a great, much of an identity. Really, our identity was, our 2 bigs, and there was a lot of talk about how that, could never work and was working a little bit in stretches, but not that much, not that well. And the irony of it, Domas and Miles playing together was our best pairing in a plus-minus basis, but we were still a team that was well under 500, and we weren't shooting the ball particularly well. And you could just go on and on. We were last in the league in dunks, so we were not athletic. And so, when the opportunity for the Sacramento trade came up, I mean, God, you hate moving a guy like Domantas Sabonis, and he's a multiple All-Star, and he's the kind of gritty competitor that this kind of market really loves and all that. But to get great players, you got to trade great players, and in this case, the trade really worked out because it's been a great trade for both franchises. Sacramento made the big jump last year. Things have turned here. The direction is pretty obviously going the right way, and we needed shooting. And Buddy Hield has been great as a shooter for us, and had a historic year shooting the ball last year. So those were positives. We got Jalen Smith on board. He's an athletic big, and a lot of other good moves happened. When the big trade was made, all of a sudden Isaiah Jackson was playing. That certainly raised our dunk quotient, and there just became more excitement around the team, and we've continued to add to it. So, that's where it is, and I think this is just a time where this is a really important year for Tyrese and all of our veteran guys. I mean, these guys want to get to a higher level of competing, a higher level of winning, and so we're going to have to do the work.
How cognizant do you have to be of Buddy's contract situation and how he maybe feels about his role, especially if it is more of a bench role this season?
I talk to Buddy every day. I mean, we have very direct, candid conversations about a wide range of topics. He's just a guy that brings a certain sort of twinkle and spark into the gym every single day. I admire his level of confidence as a player, and he's a guy that, for me, one of the reasons I'm not concerned about this situation and really believe it's going to work out for the best, whatever happens, is that he's one of these rare guys that has such great confidence in his ability. No matter what the situation is, how chaotic it is, and this is by no means a chaotic situation. I mean, he's going to show up and play the same way, and he's proven that time and time again over his career. So, we get into camp. A lot of this noise will go away about his contract stuff, and this guy's in the gym for 2 hours yesterday after media day, just shooting by himself, just because he loves feeling the ball and loves watching it go in.
Rick Carlisle with us here on The Fan on this Tuesday, hanging out on the Payless Liquors hotline. Obi Toppin, what do you think you have with him? What can you unlock with him as a coach?
Well, we don't know exactly what we have. I mean, we've watched our 5-on-5 games, during the fall, and I'll tell you this: I've never seen a guy that rim runs as fast or faster than him in my life. I mean, he just has a knack for getting down the court. And if you watched our games against New York last year, I mean, he hit us for 2 or 3 breakaway dunks like virtually every game. And I think it was one game where he hit 3 or 4. And so his speed in transition will be a great asset to us offensively. On metrics, he's a guy that's got to rebound better. He's got to become a better one-on-one defender because he's played the 4 position a lot. There's a lot of switching, 1 through 4 in the NBA, and a lot of times he gets switched on to smaller guards that are quick, and he's got to learn how to sit down, use his length. And he is a guy that has terrific quickness for a guy his size. Keep people in front, and then go help us rebound the ball. So, in a lot of ways, we don't really know exactly what we have with him, and that's going to be one of the other really interesting things we get into starting today.
Again, Rick Carlisle is with us here. Appreciate the time on this Tuesday morning as training camp gets underway for the Pacers today. Rick, what was the most fun thing you did this offseason?
Oh, goodness. It was a fun thing. I tell you what it probably was. Our daughter, Abby, is a first-year student at the University of Virginia, which is my alma mater. And so in August, we took a 4.5-day trip to drop her off at school. And, I mean, it was just tremendous, Now, when you send a kid to college now, and there's a geographic, distance or whatever. So we got there on a Thursday. Actually, we got there on a Wednesday. Thursday was the day we were going to go to this dorm where the mailroom is. And so we went, and they had her and my wife had sent 27 packages.
Oh man!
In advance of her move-in. And so we went to the mailroom. We got online. We got in there early. We got the 27 packages, and then Thursday wasn't the move-in day. So I said, hey, why don't we go bang on the door? Maybe there's somebody there. Maybe there's a way we can, get in there. So we go bang on the door of her suite. Sure. And so we spent the next 3 hours getting her moved in and getting her room set up, and her roommate wasn't even there yet. So that's Thursday. Friday was her real move-in day, and all her suite mates comes in. She had 8 suite mates from all over the country, which was really interesting. And then we didn't leave till Sunday, but it was a great 4 days. I still have a lot of great friends at UVA, and she's had an amazing 6 weeks. Every day is better than the last. And so, we obviously hope it continues that way.
Gosh, I have some vivid images of moving in. I'm picturing Rick Carlisle like battling dads for the elevator and like trying to make sure all the boxes get into the room 211.
It's much more organized now, KB. I believe it's much more organized. Coach, I just moved here like 2 months ago, and I'm still now for the last 2 months. I swear Amazon shows up to my house just about every day, every single day.
Yeah, well, here's one of the things that happened that day. There was a little brother of one of the girls moving into the suite who was telling me he was a big basketball fan.
Oh, no.
And that he liked Virginia, but he really liked North Carolina. I said, bro, let's go. You're going with me. And so
you can't do that.
I got in the car and drove over to John Paul Jones Arena and went to the basketball office, and I introduced him to Tony Bennett.
Yes.
And
great.
And he put on Tony Bennett's championship ring, and we got pictures in front of the trophy and all that kind of stuff. And now this kid is a Virginia fan. So that was one accomplishment of the weekend.
Speaking of defense, Tony Bennett. Speaking of defense,
exactly.
he met Tony Bennett. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. All right, Rick, one more from me. I think listeners of this show will know it's pretty well documented my affinity for Benedict Mather, and absolutely love how he is wired. Certainly his rookie year had a lot of positive moments and certainly room for growth. How do you view year two from a guy that, again, from afar, I think is pretty uniquely wired?
Yeah, I agree with you. He's terrific. He's, it's hard to get into exactly everything that I believe he's about, but he has a real thirst and a real hunger for greatness. Greatness is a very daunting word to throw around. That kind of thing is going to obviously take some time, but he's a guy that I believe can be a really high-level two-way defender in this league. Defensively, he's going to have to make some strides. As you mentioned, he's got the wiring for it. He's got the toughness for it. He's got to understand that, for this franchise to go where we believe it can go in the next 2 or 3 years, I mean, he's going to have to be one of these wing players in the NBA that can not only go out and have consistent big nights scoring the ball, but can take on the challenge of guarding, the Jaylen Browns, the Jason Tatums, Hardens and guys like that. And, man, that's a lot. And so, there's a lot. There's a lot for him to continue to learn, but every day he comes in and he busts his ass and he works, and on an almost weekly basis he's coming to me or one of my other coaches on the staff saying, hey, coach me hard. I want to be great. I want to be coached hard. And hey, what else can you ask for? So he's a young guy, and I think he's just turned 20, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. And the possibilities are amazing. But I think our fan base is going to have to understand and have some patience and just understand that this is not all going to happen overnight. But he's a guy that's very important to us, obviously.
Coach, we'll get you out of here with this one. I always got to do a ha-ha at the end somewhere. Did you happen to see Jimmy Butler's hair yesterday with the Miami Heat? Did you see his hair? If not, ask your players if they saw it.
No, I did see it.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting. Was that his real hair, or was that a wig?
I believe it was real.
I believe it was really straight. He straightened it out. So there you go.
Andy and I aren't. We don't really share in the hair.
No.
Sort of.
We wear hats every day, Coach. There's a reason.
Yeah, we don't have the ability to pull that off.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't ever judge guys like Jimmy Butler. We got to play against those guys.
You're damn right you do. Yeah.
Whatever he does is fine with me. I thought it was pretty cool, pretty ballsy.
Well, shout out to Abby and congrats on the move in. I'm sure that was quite the experience. I'm sure a bit emotional for you as well. And looking forward to this season. As I said to you last night, Coach, I think expectations should be high. You guys got some wonderful depth and eager to see how it all plays out. So good luck with the start of training camp and appreciate the time here on this Tuesday morning.
All right, guys. Take care. Talk to you soon.
That's Rick Carlisle right there on the Payless Liquors
stuff.
hotline. Great stuff from him. Again, year 3 of the second era, if you will. The thing that I always come away with after hearing Carlisle talk, Andy, is I always feel like you just don't get coach speak from him. You know, you get really descriptive ways to describe a variety of players or teams. I think he's pretty candid as well, and I think you get that from him. And it is kind of crazy to think about the makeup of this year's team, and he talks about the depth. The other thing that I saw yesterday, I think Jeremiah Johnson had this walking away from Media Day. Andy, the third longest tenured Pacer. So Miles Turner would be 1. TJ McConnell would be 2. The third longest tenured Pacer is Isaiah Jackson. And I think of Isaiah Jackson as still the 21-year-old that you're, trying. Is there more in there? Was he one of these Kentucky guys that didn't play a lot for Cal, and then all of a sudden he's going to show you something?
COVID year at Kentucky, I believe.
Sounds right.
So that whole year was just odd. Maybe he was a year after. I have to look that up. Yeah, he's a good player, but almost a forgotten UK player, if that makes sense. He hasn't played as much.
But I bring that up to be man, this is still a really young and new core, even though a lot of these pieces you feel like you do know. And I think expectations should be high. I'll continue to say it. I think this is a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference, 25 wins to 35 wins. Now does it become in the mid-40s? And I think you heard from Carlisle there. They have got to be better perimeter-wise on the defensive end of the floor. And I think the injection of Bruce Brown and that being his calling card, I think will be a huge catalyst in getting better out there.
You mentioned, and there's a few things, we could have asked him. Yesterday he talked about, hey, this is now, we're going from the development stage to the competitive stage. And we also know they're not going to put a number on that because you don't know what that number is going to be. In 2020, the Pacers, 34 wins, were 9th. Right, if I'm not mistaken, then in 2021, just going by when they added the play-in, in 2021, the last spot to make the postseason was 43 wins. Last year, it was 41 wins. So if you're just talking about how many more wins the Pacers need, they had 35 last year, you're probably looking conservatively, you need 7 more wins, would put you at about 42. And historically, that has got you at least into the play-in. Now, if you want to be, the 6th seed, you're going to have to win more than that, you would imagine. But you're looking at having to add 6, 7, 8 more wins to safely be a playoff team.
And again, 35 last year, Andy. How much did Haliburton miss?
Sure.
Late years when he was out. Now, I still think you can't put all your eggs into that basket. He mentioned, for this thing to continue to progress forward and take the next big jump, Benedict Mathurin has got to be a dude. And a dude in the starting lineup, and not just what he was coming off the bench from last season. Again, Rex points this out. Rick Carlisle's terrific interview, so personable and real. You wouldn't expect it with his courtside stoicism and demeanor. I would agree. Again, I always enjoy listening to his press conferences, and hopefully we can have him on a few more times this season. For those that missed it, again, Rick Carlisle will be on the podcast. We will transition to Gregg Doyel here in a few. Looking forward to chatting with Gregg and asking him what question is he most looking forward to asking Jonathan Taylor whenever Taylor does meet the media, either this week or coming up here in October. Before we get to Gregg, let's go with the morning checkdown.
The morning checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, week 4 of the NFL season finally in the books. Seahawks winners 24-3. The Giants got one measly field goal in the second quarter, and that's it. Geno Smith injured. Drew Lock came in, had a touchdown to Noah Fant. Back comes Geno Smith. They scored 10 points in the second half. That's enough. The Giants 1-3. Seattle 3-1. Now, did you watch any of the Manning cast? I know you're a Manning cast
Bits and
guy.
pieces of it. Yep.
Did you see Will Ferrell that was there? Did you happen to see him?
I had to. Go upstairs with Max at one point, but
you have things going on.
But yeah, I watched Will. I watched the meatloaf thing.
That's the sound that we have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Play this.
There's some rage behind it. Yeah.
Holding.
This guy had some rage, so it was more like
Number 84.
Ma, meatloaf.
10-yard penalty. First down.
It's like I got to hear the
Meatloaf. Okay.
but a little more growl. Ma, meatloaf.
Mom! Milo!
I thought Eli sounded drunk there.
Why did you drag it out? Mom! Why did you drag it out like that? Just bark
like a
it.
Southern draw thing. It's
Mom! Milo! All right.
You know, my mom's starting to come down here. She's freaking out. She didn't know what's going on.
I will say, going from Will Ferrell to Sean O'Hara was quite the drop-off in terms of guests last night on the
I was going
Manning
to say,
cast.
why would you, if you're Sean O'Hara, why would you want to follow Will Ferrell?
Listen.
Is that a giant icon?
Yes.
Is he the Jeff Saturday of...
It's exactly. Well, O'Hara's on the NFL Network. It is exactly Jeff Saturday. And the way it's going in the next couple years, maybe he magically will become the head coach for half the season.
Well, I don't know if you stuck
I don't know
around.
if I wish that upon anybody.
I don't know if you stuck around how long into the Manicast you stuck around, but they actually said that Sean O'Hara was introduced multiple times as Jeff Saturday in in personal meetings and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And Eli's like,
I can see that.
Eli's like, should I correct him? Like, no, just let it roll. Just keep going.
Well, Sean O'Hara and Jeff Saturday, you know who else got a lot of that? Phil Simms and Boomer Esiason.
Yeah.
Because they were blonde
totally.
guys.
Yeah, totally.
They used to get a lot of that.
See that. Thursday night football for those getting ready for their football fix here in week 5.
Yeah.
Hide your eyes. It's Commanders and Bears on Thursday night.
What do you mean hide your
Football.
eyes? That's going to be world-class football right there.
Week 5 kicks off on Thursday. Commanders and Bears. Oh, that'll do it.
Going back to the Rick Carlisle comment there for just a second, Andy, I don't envy you having to move, let alone with your wife as pregnant as she was.
These boxes, man.
I cannot imagine, and I'm sure I'll be there one day, moving someone into a dorm seems like hell. That just sounds absolutely awful.
Plus, you're going to be emotional. Now,
2
I don't know.
elevators. Nope. Well, only one's working today. You got to take the steps.
Usually no air conditioning.
Oh, just
So-
brutal. That's a great point. 95 degrees.
Oh, there's
probably.
something. Oh, you know it's hot. I mean,
you're
yeah,
doing
where
it
are you
in
going to go? You're
August.
doing it in early August. Yeah, it's going to be 9 million degrees no matter where you are in the country, basically. You can be in New York. You can be Western. You can be in Buffalo. You're like, damn, I'm sweating. It's Buffalo.
You'd be waiting for the elevator, and then it's like been 20 minutes, and then, it's full anyway. So like, I guess
Literally.
we're still waiting.
Speaking of hot, speaking of outdoors, Major League Baseball playoffs underway today. So we'll get the wild card series started. Again, 2 of them in each league. Twins and Blue Jays, Rays and Rangers in the AL. Brewers and Diamondbacks, Phillies and Marlins in the NL. Of those 8 teams, any of them you think could make a World Series run?
I guess I would say, would you go with the Phillies there, perhaps? I wish I had seen a little bit more of Arizona.
What about the pesky Trisha Whitaker Rays?
That was going to be my pick,
No,
was the Rays.
I'm going Rangers to beat the Rays.
The Rays are always, they're always around, and I just feel like, they can knock off the Orioles maybe.
Let's go Rangers.
Believe in the Blue Jays, maybe?
You did say, speaking of outside, and then the very first game there's Rays and Rangers, which is inside.
I knew not all of them were.
Which is inside.
Were
That's the first
outdoors.
thing I thought.
Speaking of inside, the Colts will be inside today. It is an off day for the Colts. For those that missed the news item of yesterday, Jonathan Taylor, he will return to practice this week. That will not be tomorrow, though. After the Shane Steichen press conference, a couple hours after it, the Colts, coming off of back-to-back overtime games, dealing with a rather lengthy Week 5 injury report, they decided to cancel their Wednesday practice. That will just be a walkthrough. So Jonathan Taylor, that means he will get just 2 practices in this week, Thursday and Friday. Andy, you've got to go back to December 15th.
Wow, is that the day?
Last season for Jonathan Taylor's last time he has been in a practice or game setting for the Colts.
December 15th is a long time ago. I'm trying to think what I was doing on December 15th besides, it's not quite last second Christmas shopping, but, Amazon is starting to tell you, brother, that's not going to get here until
That's
January the 3rd.
Yeah, that's when I start sweating a little bit there.
Yeah.
On that end.
I had guys that I knew that would be like the day before.
Well,
they would gamble. Like the day before, I'm going to the mall.
Some
Let's see what
people say
happens.
that's the time where you can really find the best deals.
Yeah, also there's no inventory. So yes, if you don't mind getting the best deal on just anything, then you would be fine.
Strikes me something as what our next guest would do. Gregg Doyel from The Star. He joins us next. What questions does he have for Jonathan Taylor? We'll toss that to Greg next.
the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Appreciate Rick Carlisle joining us. Good stuff from him. If you missed any of it, you can catch it on the replay on YouTube. Hit up 107.5 The Fan. You can also check out the website, 1075thefan.com, Apple Podcasts, many places to do that. And you can also do that with Gregg Doyel, who is up next here on the program, hanging out with us on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Gregg Doyel, columnist there at the Indy Star. Greg, happy morning. How are you?
Well, I'm good, but I don't understand why. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm nervous where you're going with this, Greg.
Why? Yeah, you don't like where I'm going? Well, I don't like where I've been. I don't understand why Rick Carlisle gets to go at 8 when that was my time. Like, you guys called me yesterday, hey, can we have you on? Yeah, I'll come on at 8. Sounds great. I get a message a little bit later. Sorry, Rick Carlisle's available at 8. Can you go anytime? Can you go jump in the lake? Can you go straight to hell, Greg? I'm like, yeah, okay.
Mark, is that what you said to him?
Those were not my exact words, no.
Maybe 8:30 is more of the prime drive slot, Greg.
Maybe I wanted 8.
Yeah, we were doing it for you. We moved you back 30 minutes for you. It had nothing to do with Rick Carlisle. Yeah, I was a bystander in this conversation between Mark and Kevin Bowen.
You know, I didn't think I was going to say this, but and don't cringe. This isn't going to be bad. It's just going to be something promoting something I'm working on. Go figure. But you know, when you just said, that's right, Greg, we moved you back for your sake. I'm writing about the IHSAA today. I don't know when the story's going to post, but I'm writing it today. And frankly, I've not been sleeping well for a couple of days because it's a big one. And it's a big one, not like some I've written before where here's a kid that got screwed. You're not going to believe this. You know, those are easy, honestly. I mean, they suck, but they're easy. This one's harder because this one I'm trying to explain exactly why the IHSAA sucks and why no one has fixed it, despite the fact that everybody pretty much agrees the IHSAA sucks. And so, to me, this is a very important story, and I've not been sleeping great. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is that one of the things they've done, among the many, many, many things they've done, is they removed lawyers from the review room, the appeal room. In other words, if you're a kid and you've tried to transfer and play somewhere, and the IHSAA said, sorry, you can't play, and then you appeal that decision, until last year you could have a lawyer with you just because your parents and your blue collar, probably you have no idea what's going on, your kid's scared to death, and the IHSAA the whole system's gamed up against you, but let's have an attorney in there who can at least help you. Yeah, and the IHSAA had an attorney too, and their guy was mean as a snake, and that's been well documented by me. And so the IHSAA's decision was, we're going to remove attorneys from the room. And now, the mean as a snake guy's already retired, so he's gone anyway. So it didn't really matter. They didn't help anybody by getting rid of that guy. He was retiring anyway. But they removed attorneys, and now kids and families are going in there with nothing. They go in there with nothing, and the IHSAA, they don't need an attorney because they're running the show anyway. They don't need an attorney to kick your rear end in that room. So I asked the IHSAA a couple days ago. I had a meeting with them. Like, why'd you remove attorneys from the room? And they said, we did that so families wouldn't have to pay for an attorney. We're trying to save them some money. I'm like,
right.
Oh, you did that for the families, did you? That's like you telling me you moved me at 8:30 for me. No, you didn't, you liar. Just like I told them. You're lying to me there. You're lying to me here. Everybody's lying to me. Let's talk Jonathan Taylor. Speaking of that.
Gregg Doyel with us.
Man, what a transition, by
I appreciate Greg transitioning because you or I were going to have to transition, which would have been maybe even more awkward. Again, that piece, be looking for that in the next few hours, day or so. Gregg Doyel with us here on The Fan. What do you make of Shane Steichen's words yesterday of Jonathan Taylor? How much of that do you believe? And look into your crystal ball. What do you see happening here?
You know, Shane has I've come around on Shane a little bit in that when he first got here, and I wrote about this last week, so I tried to put into words finally once and for all, why I'm coming around on Shane, if people notice a change in my tone, is that when he first got here, he was given this rattlesnake in the locker room. Jonathan Taylor, your best player, doesn't want to be here. And he's a new coach, and he's trying to, but Taylor hasn't been traded yet. They're hoping he plays, and so Steichen's trying to dance the line where he gives us something but doesn't give us much and doesn't tick off Taylor. And that's a hard thing to do, and it came across as very disingenuous. And so I kind of, every time he spoke, pointed out that you're not helping. You're not helping anybody.
Now I realize he was actually trying to help everybody. He was trying to give us a little bit of something, trying to protect the privacy, trying to make sure Taylor knows he's welcome, and it just didn't work. So I at least understand his motivation. He wasn't being a Belichick with us. He was actually trying to help everybody out. It just didn't work. Having said all that, I don't believe him when he says Taylor's excited to come back. I don't believe that, but I also know what he's doing. They hope Taylor plays this year and plays well. They want Anthony Richardson to not get hurt. And if Jonathan Taylor's running for 125 yards a game, defenses can't just tee off on Richardson. So they want him to play. They want him to be happy, whether they keep him for long term or not. They've got 14 more games for Richardson, or 13 to get through. So they want him here. They're not going to say anything for Taylor or his very sensitive agent, those two babies, to get upset about. So do I believe Taylor's excited about being here? No. He doesn't want to be. He's a rattlesnake in the locker room is what he is.
Greg Doyle, what is if you had to put one question to Jonathan Taylor whenever he does talk to the media, what would be the top one?
What changed? What changed? And yeah, where did you go? Because you were one way a couple years ago. Where did this come from? And what's he going to say? I mean, he's not going to say anything, but I want to know that. Like, where did you go, Jonathan? Because we loved you. And we didn't love you because you accepted the money you got and kept your mouth shut. No. He's great in the community, very smart, humble, the kind of guy that you ask him about his runs and he's talking about his offensive lineman. It was all about everybody else. It wasn't about him at all. And now he hires a new agent. I know it changed, but he hires a new agent, and now everything's about him. Everything's about him, to the point that he's not even going to play unless you make him, because he doesn't care about this team. He wants his money, as if $4 million this year isn't enough. Go figure.
Do you think this is simply Taylor just being like, I've got no other choice, I have to play, and I have to play for this team? I guess judging by some of your comments, it seems like that's kind of where you're at. This is not necessarily Taylor being like, oh, yeah, this relationship has been repaired and, things have been mended. It's more of just, what else am I going to do?
If he wanted to be here, if he really wanted to be here, and I mean in the grand sense, I don't mean because he couldn't play for 4 weeks, but if he really wanted to be here, he wouldn't have gone on PUP anyway, because he was fine.
Or he'd show up to practice?
Yeah, or show up to practice or travel with the team. I mean, he doesn't want to be here. I know how fans are in every city of every team. Your player's going to say, Taylor he might say the words, I want to be here, and people are going to come after you and me and say, how dare you? You got it wrong. You see what he said? Come on. Please. We're already voting for people that are lying straight to your face, and I don't even understand that. But don't tell me, like, that's not my purview. Stick to sports. Okay, I'll stick to sports. Jonathan Taylor he can't pee on me and tell me it's raining, okay? You can pee on me, unfortunately, but it's not raining, okay? I know what it is.
Greg Doyle with us from the start.
Now I have an image of Jonathan Taylor peeing on Greg Doyle, and that's not going to be a pretty sight for me today.
This is why he's at 8:30, because of that image.
It's an 8:30 audience. Yeah, the kids are in school. Greg Doyle with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. As for the team, 2-1, Greg, and everyone loving on him and everything else after the Baltimore game, and then a disastrous first half against the Rams. They come back, nice effort, but ultimately lose. Tennessee will be a tough test on Sunday. What do you make of where this team is a couple weeks into the season here?
2-1 was weird. 2-1 was weird. They got the Texans at the right time because C.J. Stroud is now he woke up. So 2-1 was just weird. It was weird that they were 2-1. I don't know what to say. No one saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. The Ravens game was weird. I mean, that game was just damn weird. Now look, if at the end of the year they're and they won't be, but if they're in the year they're 12-5, what I'm not going to do is say, hey, 12-5 is weird. No, if you're 12-5, you are what your record says you are. 3 games in the season, you're really not what your record says you are. You're not yet. I mean, it's just too early, and teams are finding themselves, including yourself. The Ravens game was weird. So 2-1 was weird. Them getting kind of blown out until the Rams lost interest. It reminded me a lot of the Saints game 5 or 6 years ago, and I need to go back and read what I wrote, because 5 or 6 years ago they played the Saints, might have been 8 years ago. They were down something like 24-0. And when the game was over, then they came back and tied it, I think, and lost by a touchdown. I forget, something like that. All I remember is that was my orange slice game, or orange wedge game, because afterwards the Colts were all proud of themselves. They were all, DeQuell Jackson, Pagano, they were so proud of how they came back. And I wrote, orange slices for everyone. Winning doesn't matter around here. They tried hard. And I was very upset about how they were patting themselves in the back for being embarrassed at home until they woke up. This game was a little bit, patted them on the back a little bit, or at the very least, no, I didn't. I patted Richardson on the back.
Mm-hmm.
They were down 23-0. That stunk, but Richardson showed he's special. So I'm kind of wondering. I guess that is my answer. Like, why would I be so negative 8 years ago and not this year? Well, because Richardson, it's a whole different story. Anyway, point being, I'm not surprised they're 2-2. I am. I'm actually I thought they'd be 1-3 or 0-4 at this point. So I don't. They are what they are. They're not very good. But as I've said, I've written, and you guys, we all say this. Richardson is so good. I mean, he's weird. He's inefficient. He's weird. His stats are not like normal stats, but he's so good that they're going to be competitive in some games, and they're even going to win some games they probably shouldn't. But they're not any good. They're not. I mean, Michael Pittman is your number one receiver. Can we stop asking that question? Like, can we please? I listen to y'all station off and on all day, especially now that you got rid of that clown at noon. I'm now inclined to listen to you guys more. I hear all the time, is Pittman a 1? No. Let's ask a better question. Is he a 2? Is he a 2?
Mm-hmm.
Or on a really good team, is he a 3? But a 1? I'm getting angry. Is someone pissing on my head again? Tell me it's raining, because he's not a 1.
Well, it's not me. By the way, I think I found the game. Sunday, October 25th. And that's going back to, hang on just a second, 2015. 2015, the Saints won in Lucas Oil 27-21. The Saints got up 20-0 at halftime. I think they even led 27-0. And then the Colts scored 21 unanswered. 27-21, that was your final.
You're not quoting me? Because I had some gold in that story. I remember I was so mad. And I'm like bringing up orange wedges and youth soccer, and I was so angry, but yeah, that sounds like the game. In my defense, and I don't have much, but in my defense, I got here in 14, and the Colts were like, I don't know, 5-2 when I got here. They were, that was obviously the AFC Championship game season. And when I got here, they fell off a cliff. They started getting blown out by everybody by 30. They got to the playoffs anyway, won a couple games, got to New England, got blown out. And since then, it's been injuries and just a downhill slide, and Pagano talking nonsense, and Trent Richardson and Gregson having no idea what he's doing. And it's just the one thing after another. And now we've got this. We got Jonathan Taylor. Like, I don't want to be negative. Everybody's like, why are you so negative? Like, well, do you pay attention to the team I cover? What do you want me to do?
Greg, the one and only Gregg Doyel, by the way, is with us in case you didn't know.
I'm trying to find that article,
for
by
the
the way.
Indianapolis Star. Greg,
Your Googling skills suck.
They do.
Google Doyle, Colts, Saints, and Orange, and then 2015.
Yeah, well, I do recall a beautifully painted picture of the locker room with the orange slices in the middle of that room. Again, Gregg Doyel's with us here. No easy transition whatsoever to this, but Greg, it's a hat tip, if I will, U.S. Ryder Cup style, to what I think of you as a writer. Have you ever thought about and/or tried to pursue writing about Ryan Kelly and his wife's story and the beyond tragic loss of their daughter from a couple of years ago, and fast forward that to present day and Ryan Kelly announcing, I think it was yesterday on social media, that their twin boys were born at 27 weeks. They were in Nashville. Emma, his wife, was in Nashville and went into labor, and they had to spend 3 months down there. I guess she primarily, along with the two boys, had to spend 3 months down there. They just got to come home yesterday.
It's unbelievable.
So, again, it's just an amazing story. I remember talking to Ryan. We had him on the show during training camp, and I guess at that point they had the two boys, and they just didn't want to share any of that. I guess it's early in the feel-good nature to this story, but have you ever tried to look into that? Because I think you would certainly give it the proper attention and write it beautifully.
So when I get emotional, I get cold and I get chills, and you bring up Ryan Kelly and what they lost, their baby, and it hurts. I know it hurts them a million times more, but the reason I get so fired up sometimes, especially about the IHSAA, is I'm a dad, and Andy, I'm happy that your situation turned out.
Thank you.
So well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. So, on the one hand, I want to write about that. On the other hand, I don't know that I can. It hurts too much. And sorry, I'll pull it together. Finally, and this is actually what has kept me away from this story so far, is that I know what I've written in the past, and I know how hard I was on everybody who didn't take the vaccine and during the COVID year. And I don't mean to bring that up other than to say that I know what I wrote, and I know the players that I wrote about, and I just don't know that I've got the right to ask Ryan Kelly to tell me about his lowest and highest moments. I'm not sure I'm the right guy to, if he, I just don't know. I don't know.
It's fair. Again, Gregg Doyel is with us here from the Indianapolis Star. Greg, before we let you go, I did want to sneak in one Pacers question, and as always, appreciate your candor here on this Tuesday morning with us. I know you wrote about Buddy Hield last week. I guess either take it down the Buddy Hield route if you would like, or just overall Pacers thoughts as they get training camp underway here in Rick Carlisle's third season.
Well, as we about to hang up, I've got a story that's up right now about Obi Toppin. So, and we don't have to talk about that, but just in a nutshell, you'll see a tweet from me coming up soon saying that Kevin Pritchard has a knack for finding really good, promising young players elsewhere that for whatever reason haven't had the chance, the time, whatever. Sabonis, Oladipo, Haliburton, and granted, two of those three had better numbers than Obi Toppin. Sabonis only had 1 year in, but didn't do much at OKC. But none of them are perfect analogies to Toppin. I get that. But when he sees something that Jordan Nwora, Aaron Nesmith, those guys, Jalen Smith, those guys were borderline busts, and they come here and they get a chance, and they're more than that. So my question is, what is Toppin? Is he an Aaron Nesmith type, or is he the bonus type? I don't know. That's all I wrote about that. So, but about Buddy Hield and the Pacers, the Pacers were talking him up nicely yesterday. Miles Turner says he's a great guy, but and I'm sure he is a great guy. But what happened in Sacramento happened. He was benched and he didn't like it and he wanted out. And he's in the last year of his contract right now, and it's. I see parallels to Oladipo several years ago and Jonathan Taylor this year. I see a guy that's, sees a big payday, and in his case, probably one last big payday on the horizon. And if the Pacers truly put him off the bench and give those minutes to Mathurin, and granted, he'll play a lot. He'll still play a lot. Mathurin scored 16 a game last year and didn't start much, so he'll play. But will he take it well? In a vacuum, you'd say, sure, he'll take it well. But we're not in a vacuum, and he wasn't in a vacuum 4 years ago, and he's in Sacramento, and he wanted out. So I'm just my eyeballs on that situation. That's all. I'm not saying he's going to ruin this season. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if we're not even asking the question, shame on us because he's done it before. Let's just see what happens now.
Greg, thank you for the time. Again, his latest coming out, IHSA related, and then Obi Toppin as well. Greg, always enjoy our conversations and appreciate this on a Tuesday morning.
Appreciate it, Greg.
After I cried, everybody gave it a thumbs down.
Thumbs up from us, Greg. This is why we moved you to 8:30.
Yeah.
You're the best. Good circular move there. Thank you, guys. Bye.
It's Gregg Doyel right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Andy, I did want to make sure we gave some time to the Ryan Kelly story today.
It's on my sheet, to bring up at some point today.
And certainly,
unbelievable.
There is a level of relatability I think you could have, with Rosie and Max, we were very, very fortunate, and Maddie would be the first one to tell you to have very smooth 40-week process, and everything went great. And sadly, tragically, the Kelly family did not have that with their daughter, Mary Kate, a couple years ago. But their two boys, again, born back. And this is all based off Ryan's social post that he had yesterday. He said they were born 3 months ago. At 27 weeks pregnant is when they were born. They happen to be in Nashville, so I can't even imagine being out of the comfort of your own.
I can't imagine. No, just for me, and listen, I know we're behind on break, so I don't know if you want to do this now, but no, watching and kind of reading his story, I know you had alluded to, he's going through a lot in his personal life, and now he's got a concussion, and now he's missing weeks in the NFL, and there can't be anything scarier than that. There can't be anything scarier than having a concussion, and then you throw in all of this personal stuff. I can't imagine, we were in and out of the hospital for between 2.5 and 3 weeks. I can't imagine 3 months. KB, I just cannot imagine.
And in Nashville on top of that.
And then on top of it, Nashville's not exactly right around the corner to Indianapolis. That's a 5-hour trip, 4.5, 5 hours. How you navigate that. God bless them. That is unbelievable.
To Ryan, to Emma, to Ford, to Duke, to Mary Kate, to the entire Kelly family, I cannot even imagine. And it sounds like the boys are home and Emma's doing well. And so obviously hope Ryan gets healthy on that end as well. But what they've dealt with, for the last 2 years and especially the last 3 months, cannot even imagine on that end. All right, 9 o'clock hour coming up on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Thank you all for tuning in. It is the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy right here on 93.5, 107.5.
wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
9 o'clock hour, hanging out with you, DriveHubler.com studios. He's Kevin Bowen. I'm Andy Sweeney. Mark Dighton producing today's effort. We're just kicking around during the break. I mean, Rick Carlisle backed up with great stuff from Gregg Doyel. If you missed
be a hell
any
of a podcast
I mean,
today.
how about that? If you missed any of the shows here on The Fan, definitely the last hour, fantastic. Find it on the website, 1075thefan.com. Shameless promotion. I'll have my crappy power rankings will go up at some point. What do you have on the website right now? I think you had the 5 things you learned from Sunday. Is that the last thing, or what?
The latest
what's
is the news
latest?
items from yesterday, and obviously the Jonathan Taylor story we can get back into today. But the injury report, Andy, as you mentioned, it's growing, exiting Week 4 for the Colts. Dallas Flowers, a starting corner, lost for the season, tore his Achilles. We've touched on it today, but again, I think that is a major loss for several reasons. I know Flowers is not necessarily a household name, but he was a young guy that this staff was intrigued by, and now he has a torn Achilles playing a premium position that obviously is going to sideline him for all of this year. Andy, typically those take a
he's
full
on the
year.
pump next year. Yeah, he doesn't play the week 5.
Time 2024,
100%.
And again, this is a piece that part of this season is about obviously Richardson's development, but let's say he's the central piece of the puzzle. The other part of this season is who else is around Richardson on the puzzle. Is Bernard Ryman on that puzzle? Seems like he is.
I think he is.
Is Kwity Paye? Is Michael Pittman? Is Jonathan Taylor? Those are the questions you have. Flowers at corner, he might not be one of the main pieces, but he's certainly one of the ones you were somewhat intrigued by. Again, it's an incredibly young corner room. Kenny Moore is in a contract year, and he's, inching closer to the age of 30. So I think that's where the bummer lies in that injury in particular. What it means is this. Juju Brents, Andy, 2 weeks ago, had yet to play an NFL game.
Right.
And now he is your second corner. I mean, he is your every single snap corner. There is no doubt about it. I'd look into signing Darius Rush back off the Chiefs practice squad. That's a move that I would like to see happen. And then that third corner spot, which plays a lot, will be either Jalen Jones, the 7th-round pick out of A&M, or Darrell Baker Jr., who was benched after the Week 2 win in Houston.
I do love that we got how many days out of the Juju Brents is he going to play. I remember on a Wednesday asking Stephen Holder about it. I don't think on that Tuesday we talked about it. Did we get a Wednesday, Thursday show out of Juju Brents, and then he became
we
basically,
might have, right?
Then he made big plays in the Baltimore game, and now, because partially his play and then also partially all the injuries that the team is amassing, there he is, and he's playing. I just, for me, KB, I'm starting to get a little worried. Is that unfair for me to say? I'm just starting to get a little
now
worried.
That Mason's home about sleepless nights, or worried about something else?
Last night, my man slept last night.
Oh.
My man slept last night.
Oh, just like the Giants.
Which
Don't get used to it.
I'm not getting used to it, but
those
it's
are
fantastic.
the anomalies typically.
I mean, they also have all these baby apps you can get, where you can like
track the poops and the pees and
it tracks everything: the blood oxygen level, the heartbeat, how much sleep during the day, how much sleep during the night. Someone's making $1 billion on these apps, and I'm helping fund this. Is
funny,
basically
I feel like as like a young parent, you like look at some stuff and you're like, why didn't I think of that?
Well, yeah, like the diapers that are like blowout resistant. I'm like, where was that when my kids were in diapers still?
Blowout resistant.
Now, what are you worried about?
Well, I'm just a little worried. I mean,
just the injury list growing?
Yeah, just the injury list is growing, and in part, not in totality. So I'm not denigrating the Colts. This is not college football. You beat a team. There's not, well, you didn't beat them by enough, or they had an injury. No, the Colts went in and they beat the Ravens, right? That's it counts. It doesn't matter. It's not college football where every win has to be perfect. It has to be by enough. It has to be game controlled. It has to be all these other things. Now, you went in and you beat Lamar Jackson and company. But one reason you beat Lamar Jackson and company was what? The injuries that the Ravens had in the first 3 weeks. We talked about this going even into the Rams game. The Colts were good until that Friday. Until last Friday.
Advantages really until last Friday.
We left the air at 9:57 on Friday, And I was feeling good about, okay, the Colts and Rams. And then later on that day was an avalanche of, okay, multiple linemen, missing. What's going to kind of happen here? Now you're talking offensive line. I mean, they are so thin at corner. If their defensive line, that front seven doesn't ball out, I mean, I don't think, even though it's not like you're playing a bunch of great wide receivers, I don't think they're going to have enough there. The offensive line injuries are piling up. The Flowers injury is a devastating one. I mean, the chance of him starting next year on the PUP and missing the first 4 games is a probability and not even a possibility. You have all the Jonathan Taylor stuff. It feels like the Colts, much like everyone else, needed to be healthy, and it feels like they're hanging on by a thread with some of the health issues. Does that make sense? You're not going to win games that way.
Well, when you point to the offensive and defensive lines, Andy, that to me, if you're going to have success in 2023, those have got to be constants. Those have got to be a non-starter weekly. They show up and they have an advantage. Because if you don't have it there, I don't think you're good enough on the perimeters, the corners, the wideouts, those sorts of things. Passing offense in general to make up for a lack of trench play. And right now, to your point, injury-wise, again, 3 guys in concussion protocol. That would be the setback for Ryan Kelly last week, who now is in week 3 of this concussion protocol. He practiced Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, we thought he was going to play.
Very rare to see
I thought he was going to play. Yeah.
Full and then have that setback. Bernard Ryman suffers a concussion on last Thursday. I guess that would have been following that practice. And so he doesn't play on Sunday. Whereas his status for this week, very much up in the air. And then Kwity Paye developed symptoms after the game on Sunday, and now he is in protocol. And DeForest Buckner, of course, we saw just on that pitch count of about 20 snaps. So I think when you add all that up, that plays into / back-to-back overtime games. First time we've seen the franchise have that in 20 years. You add all that up, that's why I think they are canceling practice for tomorrow. It's just a walkthrough now for tomorrow. And I guess that now bleeds into, Andy, the Jonathan Taylor story of the announcement from Shane Steichen yesterday was Jonathan Taylor will be back to practice. At the time, he said Wednesday. And then a few hours later, they decided to, again, just hold a walkthrough tomorrow, which is not something you typically see from teams in week 5 of the NFL season. I know the Colts have a late bye week, but clearly the injuries are playing into that. So that leaves 2 practices for Taylor. He has not practiced again since December 15th last year. That leaves 2 practices for him to get ready for Sunday, and that remains, I would say, the question of the week. I do think something that we should mention as well with Taylor, and I don't want to act like he's the only guy on the Colts roster that's like this, but Taylor is a dude that he's not. The name that's popped in my head, Andy, is Ahmad Bradshaw. The Colts had your former Giant.
I love Ahmad Bradshaw. He dated one of the girls on Jersey Shore. I think the one that got kicked off in season 1. If you, I don't know if you guys ever watched that back in the day. Angelina. Yeah.
Is that her?
I don't know.
Listen, I'm pretty sure that's it.
Ahmad Bradshaw.
I love Ahmad Bradshaw, man.
He strikes well.
Sorry to bring it. I took a left turn there.
Let's just say this. I think Ahmad enjoyed himself off the field.
I think Ahmad had it. Yeah, well, he entered
the NFL.
She said
she wasn't dating him.
Oh, okay. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
Interesting. Dating can be kind of a lot of gray area with that one. If you go back to Ahmad Bradshaw on the field, Andy, it got to a point with him. It's like, yeah, he's not going to practice Wednesday, Thursday, but he'll be out there Sunday.
100%. That's how he was.
That's just kind of how things were managed. Taylor has never been that. Taylor has been I am playing and I am practicing every day. I mean, this guy was not on the injury report at Wisconsin. Certainly was not on it his first couple seasons in the NFL. Then obviously last year he has such the start and stop nature to the ankle injury. So I feel like when you factor in all that, he's never practiced with Anthony Richardson, those things. I mean, isn't this going to take a little bit longer?
Yeah, Jacksonville is the week after Tennessee,
rotate,
right?
But
yeah, you eye Jacksonville, which stinks for Colts fans. If you go to Lucas Oil, it's on the side of your building. You'd love to see him. I don't know. Is he a guy? Let me ask you this. Is he a guy, and I want to play what Shane Steichen said yesterday, because you tweeted out a good mashup of kind of 30, 40 seconds of everything that he said about JT. Does Taylor come across a guy that would be the backup and would play 7, 8 get 7-8 carries. I don't know if that's 10, 15 snaps. Is that the kind of guy you think he would be, even if it was just, a week against Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a level of like, hey, man, for your first game back, you're going to have to be in that role. I would say the question, and this is for both parties, I know both parties have obviously had clearly differences in their respective situations, but don't both parties agree that an injury on Sunday would be the worst thing possible for Taylor?
Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine?
Of course, yeah.
He's missed 50 straight practices, and all of a sudden, he comes back after just 2 days, and you rush him out there, and he, aggravates something or suffers a bigger injury. We've already seen enough running back injuries this season. That would be awful from the Colts' sense because they would lose a playmaker that they clearly need, and in Taylor's sense, you suffer an injury in a contract year. That is not good for your situation, especially with the NFL trade deadline 4 weeks from today.
I think the other thing would be how much is Taylor in his camp going to control the situation of him playing?
Yeah, I asked Shane if it'd be a mutual decision.
Right.
He did not go there.
It's one of those things.
It's got to be mutual, though, right?
I mean, you would imagine, the parties haven't been in cahoots for months here, and that is obvious going back to, July? I mean, they have not been seen eye to eye. They need to see eye to eye as it pertains to bringing him back, right? I mean, even if you don't like each other, it's one of those things. Remember Mike and the Mad Dog in sports radio? They went years without even talking to each other off the air, but damn it, they did a radio show, KB. At some point, it's beneficial for everybody for him to come back the right way and to feel right. I mean, what we're going to get, though, Wednesday if they do the walkthrough, Thursday, and then Steichen will speak on Friday, right? The
Correct.
Coordinators at some point. I don't know if they'll shuffle the week at all.
Today.
So coordinators today. He comes back. I mean, there's a chance. What do they say when, he's had a walk through and a couple practices and Steichen's like, he's looking good out there. And all the players are like, oh, yeah, that's JT. That's a JT I remember. And then he doesn't play against Tennessee. Fans may go, what the hell?
Well, I mean, Zach Moss, if you go back a month ago, Zach Moss, had the broken arm, was out for 6 weeks. And with a broken arm, this is not due to contact, with a broken arm, an upper body injury, not a lower body injury, didn't need surgery on an ankle or a foot or whatnot. He missed 2 weeks before he returned to game action. I think a couple Taylor items to note with how the week is going to play out, Andy. One, he is not going to pop up on the injury report for this week, and that might be confusing to some people. But again, he is not on your 53-man roster. The Colts have opened up this 21-day exemption period, if you will. So they have a 21-day window where he can practice. Again, if you want him to play, now I sound like Allen Iverson. If you want him to play, then you have to make a corresponding roster move. So that would be something you'd see on Friday or Saturday before a game. So that is something to note. Also, I'm holding my breath on, when are we going to hear from Taylor? I mean, yesterday was Shane Steichen with the most rose petals Shane Steichen's ever put out for Jonathan Taylor by far with what he was sharing on that. Well, again, whether it's Jim Irsay, whether it's Chris Ballard, whether it's Shane Steichen, and kudos to all of those parties, those are the only ones we've heard from with this Taylor saga. The only time we've heard from Taylor or his agent is with cryptic, childish social media likes and posts. So just because Taylor is back practicing, I don't think that means he has to talk to the media. I believe you need to be on the 53-man roster to talk to the media. I don't know that for sure.
It's going to happen eventually. That media scrum's going to be happening, KB. It's going to happen, man.
It's going to be painful.
Oh, it's going to be great. That's going to be at his locker, right?
I cannot. I don't know. Maybe Taylor's turned into this villain, but I remember saying this back in June when Taylor first met the media. I thought it was a pretty cordial explanation of his stance. Taylor's not a good holder-outer, if you follow me there.
Okay.
He's not Terrell Owens on a driveway doing sit-ups and push-ups with Rosenhaus standing next to him.
It's not natural for him like it was T.O.
No.
to sit out a couple games.
Not natural for him and all. And to Gregg Doyle's point, who we just had on, that I think is what's so confusing, and that's what, Doyle, I asked Gregg, what would be the first question you asked Taylor? And Gregg said, why did you change? This is not him. Eric Ebron, for example. I'm trying to think of a Colt that I could see doing this and doing it in more of a demonstrative manner. He would fall into more of that category. But Taylor, No. It's just awkward. It's like asking the valedictorian to all of a sudden, whatever, sell drugs and steal a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of convict things.
Moving meth across the state of Indiana. Well, is it like this? You ever had a buddy that dated a girl and he changed who he was? That's basically what we have with Jonathan Taylor, right? It's like, hey Ben, why are you being such an AH ever since you started dating Brittany? Like, what the hell, man? You started dating Megan, and we're not friends anymore. We used to go to...
Well, shout out to Brittany and Megan.
Yeah, we used to go to Twin Peaks and watch an NFL Sunday. And now we're not watching NFL Sunday. We used to watch the Boilermakers and Tiller's Tunnel and everything else. And we're not watching... Did
I see Purdue's on Peacock 3 straight weeks?
No. Someone's got to be on Peacock.
Well, one of those games is Ohio State. That's exactly what the Big Ten wanted to do.
I mean, that's fine.
How do you create subscribers for Peacock? Put Ohio State on
there. They did it with ESPN2, ESPN Plus, SEC Network. Why do you think they put a bunch of Kentucky basketball games on the SEC Network? So Kentucky fans go get the SEC Network. Quickly before
we... Peacock right away.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess just last note on that, brace yourself, Indiana Purdue fans, for basketball season. Because if for some reason you've held off on Peacock, you're going to have games, quality games, that are going to be on Peacock this year.
100% you are.
I mean, honestly, if the Big Ten was smart, they'd put one of the IU Purdue games on Peacock.
Indiana's been on like the Big Ten Network Plus a few times, right? So now I may put my foot down. No, I'm sorry. I'll have to come in, I'll have to find a pirated version. I'll find a pirated version on YouTube, okay? That someone has filmed off their television to watch Indiana, Loyola Marymount or whatever it may be. Quickly before we move on, here is what Steichen in totality had to say about Jonathan Taylor yesterday.
He'll be back with the team. He's practicing Wednesday. He'll be out there with us. Had great conversations with him. He's super excited to be back with his teammates and look forward to having him. Yeah, no, he's in good shape conditioning-wise. Obviously, putting on the pads and practicing is a different deal. I know it's been a long time since he's played football. So we'll see, how practice goes this week, see where he's at physically from putting the pads on, and we'll go from there. Big-time player. He's explosive. He can hit the home runs. When he sees the hole, that explosive breakaway speed, great vision, power. Obviously one of the top backs in this league, without a doubt. So excited to get him back with his teammates on Wednesday on the field. Again, we'll have those conversations, see where he's at. If he feels good, and then we'll rotate him in if he's ready to go, for sure.
I asked this to you earlier, Andy, what the Taylor reaction, maybe you asked it to me actually, what the Taylor reaction would be if he runs out of the tunnel on Sunday at home. Again, looking at the rest of the October schedule, you are home this week, you're at Jacksonville next week, and then you have home games with the Browns and the Saints within that 21-day window. 2 games are at home, 1 game is on the road. This might be very far-fetched, so feel free to call me out for that if I'm going there. Is there any part of Taylor that says, I would like to make my return away from home because I don't want the awkward nature of what the crowd reaction could be like? 2, I don't want my first game to be on turf. I want my first game to be in Jacksonville on grass.
Oh, I didn't even think of the last one.
Now that's kind of a weird grass turf debate that I never would have brought up unless we've had the storyline like we've had it here this season. But is that even a thought?
I don't know. I mean, isn't MetLife the one? Isn't MetLife the stadium?
Play on turf at some point.
Yeah, I mean, isn't MetLife the stadium that gets shredded? That right. Haunted stadium that only has bad football. The Jets and the Giants in back-to-back nights. By the way, who's the guy, if you're a Giants fan, who's painting their face blue and white to go to the game? Don't you know you suck?
That's you and Little Gas
don't you know you stink? If you went to a game with your shirt off in Chicago and painted your chest, I'm you're 0-13.
Yeah.
There's no reason you need to do that.
I did take my shirt off for Micah Shrewsbury.
Okay. I mean, is he 500 this year? Is Shrewsbury 500 or what?
I don't believe I've ever painted my face for any sort of sporting activity.
Of course you're listen, I don't want to say of course you're an adult, but people that paint their face listen to us and they love sports radio, so I'm not denigrating them.
No,
I'm saying it's not something that I would ever do.
Oh, we have jobs because there's passionate fans out there.
Yeah, passionate fans, but I would never do it.
I'm a very passionate fan about, Notre Dame basketball, Notre Dame football, Tiger
paint their
Woods,
face to listen to the show?
Who's that? Say it again.
Does anybody paint their face to listen to the show? They're so amped up. They're like, I need my sports talk. Put the fan logo on the
P1
cheek.
listeners?
Yeah.
I would love to know if there's the guy out there that does religiously paint his face, kind of what's going on, what his wife thinks about it, and everything else. All of those things do interest me. Now, I had not thought about it. Listen, Jacksonville makes more sense probably because, A, it gives him more time,
Those would be
right?
5 total practices.
It would give him more practices, especially not having the practice this week, especially his last practice with the Colts was with a totally different regime, right? I mean, the quarterback's different. Pieces on offense are obviously different. Shane Steichen, you have a different play caller, a different philosophy. So I don't know if there's plug and play. I mean, the only holdback I would have with that is the majority of people, KB, think that this is a hold-in, that he has been healthy, that he didn't need to go the 4 games on PUP, and that if he got a contract from the Colts or the Ravens or the Bears or anybody, the Packers or anybody else, that go ahead and hit your sounder, that he would be out there and that he would be playing football. That would be the only thing. But Jacksonville, you're away from home. You don't have to deal with that awkwardness. If you win one of the next 2, you're 3-3 with 2 home games. He can come back, show out. Now, Cleveland and New Orleans are great defenses. That's the other side of that. I mean, you have 4 physical football teams in front of you.
Believe Tennessee's the number 1 ranked run defense this season.
I don't think much of Jacksonville, but Cleveland and New Orleans, by the numbers, are also good rushing teams.
I do want to throw this one at you. I think it's a terrific question that Riley asks here, and I'm a little bit unsure of where my answer would go. Riley says, what do you guys think about where JT and his teammates are at? Will Taylor be brought in to helping the team? Will his teammates see him if he's not? Again, Jonathan Taylor right now shows up to the facility. He does his rehab, does whatever workouts that are necessary, and then he goes home. He is not staying for practice. He's not staying for afternoon meetings, things like that. The guys I think have all said the right things. He's still a good teammate. We still like him. He texts us, blah, blah, blah. But he's definitely not present. He hasn't gone to the road games. I think there's probably a section in that locker room, Andy, that still says we support him because he's doing what we all would do if we were in his shoes, and that is standing up for his market, standing up for what the return on his contract should be, or what the contract, I guess, should reflect based off the return that he's given the Colts. I think that's probably the majority, but there's got to be some dudes that are like, damn, man, you haven't even been around.
I think the thing that changes it for me is probably if this were a team that we thought would win 10, 11, 12 games.
There'd be more venom.
Yeah, I think there would be more venom. I think for the most part, I know the players don't feel this way. They know what their over-under was, right? Like, they know where they were picked in the preseason. They know that so many people around here picked them to win 2, 3, 4 games, 5 games, whatever it was. I mean, good God, we looked at you, KB. You picked 6 or 7, and we looked at you like 5 eyes in your head. What's he doing? He's got the over? Who's got the over? And we kind of did like a second glance at you over that. So I would say if they had a little bit more at stake win-loss wise, if the team was in a different spot, it would be different. But I'm with you. I think the majority of guys look at this and they say,
we're players. Come on, band together.
Go get the bag.
Yeah.
He's trying to get the bag, and we're going to support Jonathan Taylor. What this is not is an Aaron Rodgers situation. And what I mean by that is Aaron Rodgers so after the New England debacle, where they lost to New England 15-10. They had like 19,000 chances to win that game, and Zach Wilson was terrible. And on the sideline, Aaron Rodgers was not there, but players were starting to do what Garrett Wilson was yelling at people, and Zach Wilson, there was a sense of this is going to now fall apart because they're a bad team, they're losing, there's no Aaron Rodgers, all the hopes and dreams and stats and everything else are going down the drain. Rodgers met with the team, and then he's been in the facility, and he's been there, and he was on the sideline helping Zach Wilson. I'm not saying Taylor should have been doing that, but that's not the case. He's not in the ear. Now, they also don't have a super young running back. I mean, Zach Moss is a veteran in this league. He knows he can run the ball for 4.5 yards up the middle and take the hits from a middle linebacker. He doesn't need Jonathan Taylor, but that is not this. Taylor has been he's been away. He hasn't been traveling. He hasn't been out there scowling in his hoodie. He hasn't been doing any of those things. He hasn't been a leader on this team. I guess Aaron Rodgers, while injured, has still been trying to do that for the Jets.
Michael goes, I haven't yet, but how about a fan logo tattoo? So maybe not painting his face, but he's offering a fan logo. Maybe like right where the Tyson tattoo is on the side of the forehead there.
Right, like where a teardrop tattoo goes, but have the fan logo right under the eye.
I think Mark has some different size images that we could probably send over if the artist needs that.
I'll sketch something up.
Okay, all right.
You guys don't have any tattoos, do you?
And we do have a new show logo. I have to say one on the lower back, but that's it.
Okay, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a football.
It's a dolphin.
It's a Notre Dame
jumping over a sunset.
It's
right?
an N and a D. That's what it is. By the way, I did reach out to try to get Jeff Brom on again, so we'll see if that happens.
Should we hold our breath for that?
I would not hold your breath for that. It's a big week.
Do we have a line for Notre Dame Louisville?
I thought it was 6.5.
Not getting another bite of the Jeff Brom apple. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, basically. We'll find out.
Irish is favored by 6.5. You said?
Yeah, but I thought that went up. Honestly, I thought it went up to maybe more than a touchdown.
Well, when the chesty Louisville fans start betting,
they'll be betting it down.
Betting the birds, it'll tail down.
How about this line? Iowa at home this weekend against Purdue. That's 4-1 Iowa, 2-3 Purdue. Iowa's only favored by 2.5 over the Boilers. I do feel like Purdue's kind of had Iowa's number though.
What I'm looking at right now, it's down to 1.5.
Purdue, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I feel? Closer. You know who I feel bad for? The announcers.
Iowa's quarterbacks out for the year. Cade McNamara.
There you go.
Yeah, by the way, Louisville and Notre Dame is 6.5 and over under at 53.
Where's game day? Is that the Red River Shootout?
It is. Yeah, it's Texas, Oklahoma, which it has to be, right? I mean, it just has to be. Oklahoma's good enough where, that game has to be there. Plus, there's like beautiful women in cowboy boots all around that entire area.
Woo! You all square dance?
Yeah, that is a good crowd shot game.
Yeah, it's good scenery.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my.
Kentucky, Georgia this week.
Yeah, Mark Stoops covers that. He doesn't try to win the game. He tries to lose the game 23-17. That's how he tries to lose the game, with a touchdown late so he gets the cover.
Patrick, wait a minute. A lower back tattoo for KB? No, I was kidding on that.
If it was, it'd be Tiger Woods' driver sock.
That sounds like a great idea. Mm-hmm. Now we might have something.
Sock.
Midlife crisis. Yeah. That could be it.
Is Tiger dating anybody, by the way? Is there anything
I
out
hope
there?
Not. Single Tiger is the best Tiger.
You want single Tiger?
On the prowl. Give me a Tiger roar.
Has he had a surgery lately or anything? Like a knee?
He's moving okay.
Is he moving okay?
Have you seen the picture of the son, Charlie Woods, playing golf? He is.
I bet he's crushing it, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
good for him.
Hey, talk about the amount of pressure on that kid.
Yeah, good for him.
All right, before we get to our first pop quiz of the week, 317-239-1070, let's lead off with a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown. Omaha! On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, I can lead us off. Week 4 of the NFL in the books. Mercifully, it's in the book. Seahawks winners 24-3 all over the Giants. Daniel Jones terrible, the coaching terrible, the defense, the tackling terrible. Seattle does dodge a bullet. Geno Smith injured but did come back in the third quarter. Seahawks 24-3 winners there. Seattle moves to 3-1 on the season. The Giants drop to 1-3, should be 0-4 on the season, 0-2 at home. And to get you ready for week 5, Prime Video, baby. Bears and Commanders. A quick line. Washington favored by 6.5 with an over-under of 44.5.
That seems awfully high.
There you go.
Well, last night, that Devin Witherspoon, 5th overall pick out of Illinois to Seahawks win right after Anthony Richardson. He was unbelievable.
Did you see the right guard or the right tackle of the Giants blocking Darren Waller?
Was that Evan Neal?
Shoved him into Evan Neal, 7th overall pick.
The ground.
Yeah.
Darren Waller's like, what the hell?
There's a lot of dysfunction with your Giants.
You know what Evan Neal is? Evan Neal is when, and we all do it, and I'm sure I'll do it for the website, okay? We all give our draft grades. KB, I bet you've given some draft grades out for Chris Ballard over the last couple years. It's a B-plus grade. I remember the Giants got Evan Neal. They did that move. Oh, they got Evan Neal. They got a starting D lineman and a starting offensive lineman. This is an A-plus by the Giants. I buy into it. Evan Neal stinks. That dude stinks.
He's not upset at all.
He stinks, man. He's not good at all. Come on, man. Block somebody.
At least you didn't pay Daniel Jones. Oh, wait.
$41 million.
You did.
All right, moving on. Major League Baseball playoffs are underway today. I know that these are just household paying attention games right here. 3:08 first pitch. You got the Rangers at the Rays. 4:38 first pitch. Blue Jays at Twins. The nightcaps tonight are both the NL matchups. That would be the Diamondbacks and Brewers at 7:08. The Marlins and Phillies at 8:08. Again, the byes in each of the AL and NL. In the AL, it's the Orioles and the Astros. In the NL, it is the Braves and the Dodgers.
I'm getting more tweets, people asking me if I can send pictures of your lower back tattoo.
Am I allowed to pull up my shirt to show the YouTube audience?
If you'd
that there's
like
no
to,
lower
I mean,
back
you're gone nude before.
It's YouTube.
I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
You can do whatever you want. All right.
Okay.
Let's see
shouldn't-
here.
Make sure
All
the
right.
shorts are
Yeah,
pulled
make sure
up
the
here.
shorts are up.
This shouldn't get us flagged at all.
Is that good, Mark?
I can't.
There
I'm
you
waiting
go.
to see.
I'm seeing it. There's nothing there. There's some hair, but no
You gotta scoot
tiger.
back. Go against the wall. Put your arms against the. Oh boy.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
Yep.
Like
okay.
you're being booked.
All right. Don't go
You're
any
being
lower with
arrested.
that belt line,
All right,
please.
there we go.
Dear
Don't go
Lord.
any lower with
Thought
the
this
belt
was a
line.
non-visual medium.
Why do you pop a Smurf on your hip?
Well, it's a wild weekend in Nashville. All the guys wanted to get a matching tattoo.
Well, I've certainly had some wild weekends in Nashville.
Scotty just walked in. You just missed Kevin showing his lower back.
Man,
That would
it's
have been
too bad.
quite the
He
image there.
could have held your shirt up. Too bad.
What do we miss? Celia Boston, unanimous Rookie of the Year for the WNBA. Anything else?
No, I think
Pacers training camp opens up today.
no ACL injury. Kenny Pickett. That was
That's
kind of a low-key big one for the Steelers, who are going to win 6 games regardless.
And again, on the Colts front, the injury news items from yesterday. Dallas Flowers, torn Achilles. The young corner is out for the season. Kwity Paye is in concussion protocol. The return of Jonathan Taylor to practice will be Thursday this week. Jelani Woods, the tight end, the hamstring injury that has forced him to miss the first 4 games of the year. He is going to stay on IR for a little bit longer, so we will see on that. All right, I think that's everything.
Yeah,
right?
let's go. Pop
All
quiz
right,
time.
Pop quiz 317-239-1070. Pop quiz is next. Bullseye, I think.
Query and Company, weekdays noon to 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, pop quiz time. I've read through these. I think there's an absolute chance to get 3 or 4 of these. I don't.
Wow, that's some optimism there.
I mean, basically, there's no 1940s baseball. I say, hey, NFL football, you guys got a chance.
That's always the smell test.
It really is.
In the 1940s, you're like, okay.
Do you think there's anybody out there that's like, wait, that's my specialty?
That's my jam.
I absolutely, yes. I mean, one of them's in the room with us.
Well, yeah,
but
I mean,
yes,
a listener.
I think absolutely that is the case. And whenever they hear us talk about it, whenever a question starts in 2021, they probably cringe and say, could we move that back to 1951? I might be in better shape.
Willie O'Houlihan. I remember him.
Mark, before we get to the pop quiz, you said the YouTube audience had some questions about me pulling up my shirt.
Yeah, Jake said 107.5 now streaming on OnlyFans, and my response is we need to get on Feet Finder as well. You guys got good toes and everything like that? That's where the money's to be made, apparently.
Well, that's where Rex Ryan could be a nice guest.
Yeah.
Maybe a daily guest on that.
Were you hosting radio when that came out? What were you doing?
No,
okay.
No.
Were you just writing, doing that thing? Because the Rex
God, I might have
Ryan...
still been in college.
The Rex Ryan foot story, foot fetish.
Was he a Jets head coach or was this an ESPN?
Oh, no, he was a Jets head coach.
Wow, you have really beautiful feet.
Yeah, which made it great because he was the Jets head coach. Mm-hmm. He wasn't just a football player on ESPN. He was a head coach.
Let's add to the revenue stream and show some piggies going to the market at some point.
Absolutely awesome.
Throw 'em up there.
All right, Andy Sweeney's very optimistic about this pop quiz. Andy, give us a number 1 through 8.
Let's go with 4, if that's okay with Mark Dykton. 4. Jack, good morning, sir. How are you?
Great, fellas.
Hey,
so this is 1940s baseball, right? Did I hear that right?
Well, is that your specialty, Jack?
Well, it beats naked pictures in southern Indiana, so okay.
Touche on that, and always enjoy hearing Jack. Andy, you want to throw number 1?
All right, number 1. Now this does start in baseball, but it's recent. Miami Marlins second baseman Luis Arraez is the 2023 NL batting champion. Arraez was the 2022 American League batting champion with the Twins. How about that? Named the last player to win back-to-back batting titles while playing for different teams. Was it A, Rod Carew, B, Bill Madlock, C, Rogers Hornsby, or D, Arraez is the first to do it? What do you think?
How about Madlock?
Are you sure?
No, not at all.
Pretty unique.
It's never been done before.
Say that. You said it's never been done before?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Jack.
All right,
Good start.
Jack.
MLB playoffs begin this afternoon at the start of the wild card round. Of the 8 teams in the wild card round, 5 have previously won the World Series. Which of the following wild card round participants has won the World Series? The Rays, the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, or the Rangers?
Diamondbacks?
Certainly one of the more iconic World Series of the last...
I would say so, yeah. Everything that was going on,
of our lifetime.
All right, number 3, Jack, let's go. Khalil Mack had 6 sacks in the Chargers' win over the Raiders on Sunday, one shy of the NFL record. Who recorded 7 sacks in an NFL game? Is it Derek Thomas, Fred Dean, O.C. Umenyiora, Adrian Claiborne?
How about Derek Thomas?
All right.
I told you you'd get a few.
Jack, number 4 here. Tell me if you've heard this one. The Giants lost a primetime game last night. That seems like a shot
That's
at
0-7.
Andy there.
0-7 for Daniel Jones, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, he just, slowly, he's due is what they say. The Giants are one of 2 teams in the NFL that have not run an offensive play with a lead this season. Jack, who is the other? Is it the Panthers, the Bears, the Jets, or the Broncos?
Let me ask. Can I hear that one more time?
Yeah, okay. They haven't run an offensive play with a lead this season. Panthers, Bears, Jets, or Broncos?
Panthers?
Hey, Andy, you want to throw number 5 at him?
Yeah, let's do number 5. Giants quarterback Daniel Jones is now 1-11 in primetime games in his career. The 0.83 win percentage is the worst by a starting quarterback in primetime since the 1970 merger. Who has the second worst win percentage in primetime NFL games with a minimum of 10 starts? It's a good question. Is it Ken Anderson, Jeff George, Vinny Testaverde, or Andy Dalton?
How about Andy Dalton?
I was going to say, the rumor on that, right? The Colts or Bill Polian had interest in taking Andy Dalton, right? Second round, 2011. Does that sound right?
The Red Rocket. Isn't that what they call him?
Ben Ijalana, Scotty. Was that the pick instead of Dalton? I don't even know if Dalton was still on the board, but
Daniel Jones needs to get on quite the heater just to catch the correct answer for question 5, just to get the second least worst.
No, I want him to end with 0 Monday night wins.
Well, he's got one. He's got one prime time game.
Yeah, but that was Sunday. That was like a Sunday night or a Thursday night. It was.
So you want no Monday night wins?
It was probably Thursday against Washington. If I had to guess, it was probably a Thursday game against the crap Washington Redskins / Commanders.
Andy's Giants fan. When he gets going here.
Tyler, is it Heineke? Remember him?
Taylor Heineke, right?
Remember Taylor Heineke?
Yeah. He beat the Colts last year.
It was probably against him, if I had to guess.
Watching Heineke.
I like how he's like, I'm not mad. And then he's like, I'm mad. I'm pissed. Don't win anymore.
Jack, it was a tremendous start.
It's a good job by
1,
him.
2, and 3 all were correct. So that would be a rise.
Correct.
Obviously, the Diamondbacks in that 0-1 World Series. And if it's a sack question, Derek Thomas is always a safe bet there. 4 was actually, he got 5 right. He got Dalton right.
I know.
4 was the lone slip-up. I would not have gotten this. I just would assume Mark's Bears or the pathetic Broncos.
Well, they played each other, though, and they both had the lead in this last game.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, the Bears had a big lead, didn't they? The team that has not had an offensive play with a lead this season besides the Giants, the team that's in their own stadium, the Jets. You blew it! New York teams suck.
Boy, don't they. Don't they? They're just miserable.
Well,
the big payrolls.
It was fun while it lasted.
The big payrolls in baseball, and they don't win anything. The Knicks never win anything. The Nets, they're not going to win anything.
Mark, I feel like Jack deserves something more than the Tristan Thompson treatment from.
Well, we had Rick Carlisle on today, so I thought it was appropriate. We had the coach on.
4 right.
I know. I thought
nice job, Jack.
But it's true. It was fun while it lasted. And you are correct. Jones's only win in primetime came against the Commanders in December, a 20-12 win on a questionable non-call, a potential pass interference on the Giants in the end zone on 4th down to lead the Commanders' winning drive.
There were some looks last night between Brian Dable and Daniel Jones that should not be there for quarterbacks of the experience of Daniel Jones.
Yes. It's a mess. It's the same thing. You can't, Daniel Jones stinks, and people make, his offensive line, he doesn't have Barkley. Yeah, he never has Barkley because Barkley takes a month and a half off every single season, which is why he's not being paid $20 million a year like he wants to be.
Takes a month and a half off.
You know what I mean.
Like he's hurt.
Tape it up.
You're acting like
what are we doing here?
He's in the Caribbean right now.
There is. Remember when they did the boat trip?
Oh, sure.
There's still someone on the internet keeping tabs. They're like 37-65 in a tie since that boat trip to Miami before the Packer playoff game.
You wanted to play some Manning butt comment here to end it out?
Well, do you want to take a break or do you want to do that now?
We'll do that on the other side.
Might as well.
The Manning brothers talk about butts. We'll do that to close it out.
The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, we'll get to that Peyton Manning, Eli Manning butt conversation here in just a second. Last segment of the show. Reminder, coming up at noon, Query and Company, JMV coming your way at 3 o'clock. All the latest, getting you ready for the Colts and Titans. All the Jonathan Taylor stuff as well. Tons of nonsense happening around here, which is always good. KB, is there anything else on your sheet that you want to get to? Because I have one or two small little items, and then we can bounce to this Eli and Peyton sound.
Today for the Colts, do we see a veteran cornerback move? Tuesdays are typically the workout days, the signing of, free agent type days. Again, they've opted for this youth movement at corner. Dallas Flowers now out for the year. Does that continue? Is it heavy Juju Brents? Is it heavy Jalen Jones? Does, Darrell Baker Jr. maybe get another shot at it? I don't think we'll get anything else super newsy from the Colts today. Of course, you say that, and it's just like...
somebody will be injured.
But this is a big one on Sunday. I mean, if you want, AFC South hope, and if you think about the home losing streak of 7 straight games, you think about the Titans have beaten you 5 straight. When you add that up, I think this one on Sunday maybe is... I don't know if you label it like a rivalry game, but this one I think just matters a little bit more. When Mike Vrabel and Frank Reich were hired in the same coaching cycle, I always felt like this matchup mattered. The Colts interviewed Vrabel.
They're tied to the hip
for the head coaching job when they hired Josh McDaniels originally. And frankly, I think Vrabel's teams have kicked the Colts' ass, would act like every game's been a 2-score game. It's not that, but they've won 5 straight. And anytime another team in the NFL has beaten another one 5 straight, to me, that's pretty notable.
The thing that will kill me is if they allow Derrick Henry to do that damn jump pass again.
Like he threw one for a touchdown last week, right?
And you knew it was coming, man. I'm watching that game. I'm like, jump pass. You know it's a jump pass. It's going to be a jump pass. And what was it? It was a jump pass.
He's on, I think, my fantasy team in the league that we're in. So it's about time that
did I win that? I think I won this week.
I got my first win.
Did you really? Congratulations.
4-0 over here. No big deal.
I knew it. Look at you.
No big deal.
The league that will provide you no money or benefits. You're 4-0.
It's okay.
That's the kind of year it is for that.
Bragging rights.
Yeah, but money matters more than bragging rights.
True. That's why I got to get on Feet Finder with the show.
You and this foot find. Fine, I'll give in. I'll model my feet for the fan. I have no problem with that. The only thing, I was going to play this sound, but I couldn't find a good recording. It was all off somebody else's television, which didn't make it very good for
is this going to go
radio.
How the opening of the show was?
No. What did you make of we didn't talk about it yesterday because of the Colts' reaction and injuries and, Jonathan Taylor's stuff and everything else. What did you make of Rodney Harrison?
So I have not heard the clip either.
We can play it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, Mark has it over there.
Set up the context.
Okay, so
here.
after the Chiefs and Jets game, Sunday Night Football, NBC, they bring a player over. It's Chris Jones, who, by the way, is a great interview. I had no idea it was that great of an interview. He's a great interview, insightful, and yeah, he is a hell of a player, one of the best in the league. So he comes over, and Rodney Harrison is asking him leading questions, calling Zach Wilson trash. I mean, not basically, that's what he said.
And Wilson played well on Sunday Night Football.
And Wilson had the game of his life, where some people think he actually might not be one of the worst players in the entire league. Yeah, it's about 40 seconds. Here's what it sounded like on NBC.
Was Zach better tonight than what you anticipated he would be watching him on tape? And you could be honest. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, we knew it was going to be a battle. He's continuing to get better week in and week out. And he's continued to lead week in and week out. But watching that tape, man, you got to look at this dude and say, oh, he is garbage. Like, we should really tear him apart earlier. Like I said, Zach Wilson is special, man. You just got to give the guy time. You know what I mean? Wait. Did you say Zach Wilson is special? Yeah. I think he had a special night, but I don't think he's special. I've got to prove that you're special. Because you proved it over a course of time. He's not special. I'm just saying, Chris. Hey, listen. I'm just saying.
So it's kind of like keeping it real. It is a partner of the NFL going very personal to a player. Even though I agree with Rodney Harrison, he's being crushed over it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we hate Rodney Harrison in this market,
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
And Andy, I try not to do this, so I apologize for even doing it, but I am going to wear like the media question hat for, here I am, the media question.
The media guy
hat.
hat. Okay.
I think part of our jobs, whether it's Rodney Harrison interviewing Chris Jones or you or I interviewing Rick Carlisle earlier, is try not to try not to influence the interviewee's answer based off your own words. It's fine, I think, to say this is my opinion on it, but like right there, he's just like, he's trash, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
say he's trash. Say he's trash, Chris Jones.
Confirm what I'm saying here, and I feel like that's not what you're supposed to do. Yeah, I'm much more of a let's ask a short, direct question, and obviously, Dan Patrick, I think, is the gold standard of it. Ask the whys, and hopefully people will expand on that. Boy, I thought Chris Jones handled that pretty darn well.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Jones saying, he can be special, just needs some time. I was like, listen, I agree with Rodney Harrison, but I don't agree with what he did.
Yeah,
but it's also Rodney Harrison, so I'm not surprised by anything that Rodney Harrison does.
Like, you can say something effective like, obviously Zach's had some inconsistencies this season. Boom. You can lead in with that and then ask your whatever you want to ask of, were you surprised with how he played tonight, however you want to go there. But yeah, just to flat out call him trash like that.
The one thing I was stunned is the amount of, Zach Wilson's been one of, and rightfully so, to be quite honest, he's been so bad that he's been one of the most beat up players in the league, right? It's the Jets. It's a toxic franchise anyway. And it's the Jets, you just know, and your quarterback being taken that high, right? And when you're taking that high, you got to go in and you got to perform. You got to do it pretty damn quick. I was surprised in the game that he played, in which he still made mistakes, including the fumble that ultimately lost them the game at the end, how many people were like, oh, wow, Zach Wilson's got something. Now they know how to use Zach Wilson. I was stunned by even some of the New York media do that. I'm like, you guys don't like anybody. Why do you not like Zach Wilson? You've been crapping on this guy for a year and a half.
Now, again, I had the Jets representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Obviously, I was expecting Aaron Rodgers to be the quarterback. But I will say this. The Jets won. They had 7 wins entering the month of December last season.
Yeah.
And so if Zach Wilson can just, and what have they added? I mean, they've added some pieces offensively since then. Obviously, they made a move for Allen Lazard. Breece Hall, it certainly looks like a big play.
Randall Cobb.
Guy waiting to happen. Yeah, I'm not going to go Randall Cobb. Dalvin Cook, of course, somebody there. So if they could just get some competency, I would offer more competency on the O-line. If they could start there, they have a team that I feel like is built to sniff 500.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
last
could win
year,
some games, right?
They won 7 games with the quarterback play that they had last year. But.
All right, we teased it. We might as well play it. This is on the tush push. The Giants tried to copy the Eagles. Instead, it works 100% of the time for the Eagles, and it works 0% of the time. They didn't get it, and here's Peyton and Eli talking about it.
See, that guard's got to get his hand more on the butt. He's got to get it up in there a little more. He's not pushing hard enough.
He didn't get a push.
Yeah. Pre-snap, he's got to have his hand on the butt and then go, right? He's got no space.
The quarterback.
There's no chance that's going to work. You got to push the right butt cheek specifically.
Yes, each of them got a butt cheek. They got to get, that is disappointing.
Yeah, it is.
I think there's three guys back there. One takes each cheek and one goes right down the middle. There's room in there.
There's room in there.
That might be the most dangerous thing Peyton's ever said in his life.
Peyton knows what he's doing there, right? I know
1000%.
he's talking football, but he also knows he's doing what he's doing there.
Yes. Peyton's got a little bit of a,
They have a Manning sense of humor.
Yes.
That's what they have. They have a Manning sense of humor, and they're all making millions of dollars off this.
Yeah, as Scotty said in studio, last night was why you have the Manning cast.
You're damn right.
In a game like
24-3.
We needed the Manning cast. Again, thank you to Gregg Doyel. Thank you to Rick Carlisle. Both of those will be up on the podcast. We'll have Mark Ross, former NFL GM, join us tomorrow. We'll throw some Jonathan Taylor-related stuff at him, and hopefully have Jeff Brom later in the week. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Talk to you tomorrow.